All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this Dental Board of California meeting. My name is Dr. Steve Chan, and I am the president of the board. Today is Thursday, February 6th, 2025. This board meeting is being held via teleconference with the disclosed in-person location available for the board and for public member participation. For all those who wish to participate online, please log on to the WebEx website provided on the posted agenda for this meeting. Instructions to connect to the meeting are provided via agenda. The preferred audio connection is via telephone and not the microphone and speakers on your computer. The telephone number and access code will be provided as part of your connection to the meeting. During each call for comments from board members and speakers, we will ensure that all comments can be accommodated or heard before proceeding with the agenda. This is an official business meeting of the Dental Board of California. The board welcomes public comments on any item on the agenda, and it is the board's intent to ask for public comments prior to the board taking action on any agenda item. The DCA monitor will explain the process for providing public comment shortly. For individuals participating via WebEx, when called upon, the moderator will give the individual permission to unmute themselves. They will have 2 minutes to make public comment. The moderator will audibly announce when 30 seconds remain to conclude the public comment. After the 2 minutes have elapsed, the individual will be placed back on mute. Only one public comment per agenda item is allowed per attendee. We will ask all speakers to please stay on topic and not repeat testimony already provided. If you agree with the testimony already provided, please just state your name and that you are in support of any comments previously provided. I would now like to ask the DCA moderator to please explain how public comments will be taken during this meeting.
Hello, this is the moderator of the meeting. For the purposes of today's meeting, when the board president opens public comment, members of the public who would like to provide public comment at our DCA location in Sacramento can approach the table and microphone at the front of the room. For those joining us via WebEx, we will be utilizing the WebEx question and answer feature to facilitate public comment. When the board reaches a point in the agenda in which public comment is appropriate, the question and answer feature will be turned on, and members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by inserting the phrase, "I would like to make a comment," or comment into the question box, which is typically at the lower right-hand corner of your screen. We'll also be recognizing the raise hand feature, and if you are an audio-only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. When I, the moderator, call on the individual to give the individual permission to unmute their microphone, they will be given 2 minutes to make their comments. At the conclusion of 2 minutes, their microphone will then be muted, and we will move on to the next member of the public who has a comment. Please note that the question and answer feature is being used only as a means for members of the public to represent that they would like to make a verbal comment. This is not a means to ask questions of the moderator or board members. Questions submitted using this feature will not be answered. When making your comment, please make sure the comment is directed at the host in the drop-down. While you are free to express criticism or negative views, for the sake of the members of the public participating on the call, please do not use profane language when making public comments to the board. I will provide a brief reminder of this approach at the start of each public comment item.
Thank you. Dr. DeCour, please turn on your video. This meeting is now called to order. Dr. DeCour, we need to have you on screen.
For some reason, it says it's disabled. Let me log in from a different computer and see if that solves the problem.
Thank you. We're going to have to wait until Dr. DeCour comes online. I have it on here. Yeah. Thank you for being patient.
All right, this is the moderator. Dr. Thakur, can I get a quick mic and video check from you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. And then are you able to, oh, yep, your camera's on. Thank you.
Gotcha.
Sorry about that.
This meeting is now called to order. There are 2 board members participating in this meeting remotely. Each board member participating remotely must disclose whether there are any other individuals 18 years of age or older present in the room at the remote location with the board member and the general nature of the member's relationship with such individuals. Dr. Forge, is there
No.
anyone 18 years of age or older present in the room with you at your remote location?
No,
Thank you. Dr. Thakur, is there anyone 18 age of age or older present in the room with you at your remote location?
No.
Thank you. Board members participating remotely are reminded that they must visibly appear on camera during the open portion of the meeting. If the remote member experiences any trouble with visibly appearing on the camera, the member shall announce the reason for their non-appearance when they turn off their camera, such as due to challenges with internet conductivity. I will now ask the board secretary to please call the roll.
Good morning, Board Secretary Larin. Chan?
Chan, aye.
Chan
Present.
present. Cheng?
Chang present.
Cheng present. David?
David present.
David present. Felsenfeld?
Elsenfeld present.
Felsenfeld present. Forge?
Forge present.
Forge present. Larin present. Medina? Medina present. Olage?
Olagi present.
Olage present. Thakur?
Thakur present.
Thakur present. You?
You present.
You present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 2, public comment on items not on the agenda. It's on page 6 of the meeting materials. Before we open public comment on matters not on the agenda, I would like to remind individuals making comments not to discuss pending complaints, pending licensure applications, or pending disciplinary actions that may come later before the board for a decision. Such discussions are considered ex parte communications, as they could provide information to the board members that is outside of the record in violation of the Administrative Procedure Act. Such discussions could create a conflict and lead to a board decision being challenged in Superior Court. Accordingly, if an individual makes comments on a pending disciplinary action, the individual will be interrupted. The board can, of course, receive comments regarding the board processes in general, but it cannot receive comments on specific case circumstances where the decision is still pending. In addition, public comments should address the board as a whole and not individual members. Please be aware that public comment during this agenda item should provide information to the board members, but it is not a discussion between board members and the public. The only action board members can take right now is to listen to comments and to decide whether they want a future agenda item on the topic. Though this may seem at times like the board members are not being responsive, following these guidelines is critical to ensure the rules of the Open Meeting Act are followed to avoid compromising the speaker's goal or the board's mission. In the interest of time, as we've done in the past, we would like to request that public comments not to repeat statements made by a prior commentator. If you are in support of a statement made by a prior individual and your comments have already been made, please just state your name or association and your support for the previous commentator. Legislative hearings regularly use this practice as it is a good way to ensure that we hear from everyone. Is there any in-person public comments? Seeing none. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DC moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment for items not on the agenda, you can click that raise hand icon or use the Q&A icon down at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. Audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 3, discussion and possible action on the November 7th to 8th, 2024 board meeting minutes. It's on page 7 through 46 of the meeting materials.
Move approval. Second.
Was that?
I moved. Second.
Okay, David, motion and you second. Are there any other board member discussions on the 2024 November meeting minutes? Seeing none? Let's see. Is there any in-person public comments on the meeting minutes? Seeing none? Are there any public comments from the individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon or use the Q&A icon down at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. Audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears at this time there are no requests for public comment.
Thank you, moderator. Thank you. Board Secretary, please call the roll and record the votes for this agenda item.
The motion is to approve November 7th and 8th, 2024 meeting minutes. Chan?
Chan, aye.
Chan, I. Cheng?
Chang, aye.
Cheng, I. David?
David, aye.
David, I. Felsenfeld?
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, I. Forge?
Forge, aye.
Forge, I. Larin, I. Medina?
Medina abstain.
Medina abstain. Olage?
Olagi, aye.
Olage, I. Thakur?
Aye.
Thakur, I. You?
You, aye.
You, I. Motion passes.
Thank you. Let's see, let's move on to agenda item 4, the board president report. The president's report is printed and we do have some supplemental comments. On behalf of the board members and our entire working crew of the Dental Board of California, we wish to extend our condolences and our sympathies for the survivors of the catastrophic events of the firestorms in Southern California. Our hearts are with you. I've had the benefit of weekly briefings since November 2024 with the Executive Officer Tracy Montez, Associate Executive Officer Christy Bell, and joined with Vice President Alan Felsenfeld. We thank Dr. Felsenfeld for his service presiding as officer and president of the board in 2023 and 2024. I'm going to go a little off script. I have something for him for his service. As a symbol of his high office, we have a symbol for you, Dr. Felsenfeld. Couldn't resist. It's a gavel. Absolutely. Um, The next thing is that we'd like to thank the board members for accepting the assignments to the committees as identified in the report. We would also like to thank Dr. Lilia Laren, who accepted the appointment to the vacancy on the Dental Assisting Council. Thank you.
Thank you.
We further want to offer our thanks to the board members Joanne Pacheco, Meredith McKenzie, and Dr. Sonia Molina for their service on the board, who have completed their terms of appointment to this board. On behalf of the board, we thank Dr. Montez's service and leadership as Executive Officer of the Dental Board. We wish her good fortune in the adventures in life ahead. We'd like to offer this final acknowledgement. We'd like to offer the acknowledgement of a citation from the California Department of Consumer Affairs. Please come up. I'd like to read this acknowledgement. Tracy A. Montez, PhD, honoring her in retirement. Whereas Tracy A. Montez has served the state of California for more than 19 years. And whereas Tracy A. Montez began her career in public service in 1990 as a graduate research assistant with the Office of Professional Examination Services at the Department of Consumer Affairs, then served as personnel selection consultant with the Office of Professional Examination Services from 1999 to 2001, as a supervising personnel selection consultant with the California State Personnel Board from 2001 to 2002, as a staff services manager 3 chief with the Office of Professional Examination Services from 2002 to 2006, as an education and research evaluation consultant with the California Department of Education from 2014 to 2015, and as an education administrator with the California Department of Education from 2015 to 2016. Then in 2016, rejoined the Department of Consumer Affairs as a division chief, and most recently served as the executive officer of the Dental Board of California. And whereas Tracy A. Montez, during her time in the Department of Consumer Affairs Executive Office, served with distinction as a member of the Audit Committee and the Executive Office Bureau Chief Cabinet. And whereas Tracy A. Montez was a sponsor of the Department of Consumer Affairs Values Team, led the Policy Review Committee, and was a member of the Blue Ribbon Commission on the future of the state bar examination. And whereas Tracy A. Montez was a member of the merit board that awarded the Department of Consumer Affairs Superior Sustained Accomplishment Awards and mentored a great number of employees over the years, helping them to succeed in their careers. Whereas Tracy A. Montez has earned the trust, respect of all who have worked with her. And now, therefore, be it resolved that Director Kimberly Kirschmeyer, by token of this resolution on behalf of the state of California, congratulates Tracy A. Montez on the occasion of her retirement, commends her outstanding record of service, and extends best wishes for success and fulfillment in all of her endeavors. And further, resolve that a suitably prepared copy of this resolution be presented to Tracy A. Montez, PhD, subscribed on this 6th day of February, 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you.
I'm not done. This is where I can go off script. We have another token of her high standing. As you orchestrated and conduct, we're going to offer you this symbol of your career. A conductor's baton. Opening the rib, there's a little ribbon on that. This is from the board. Now, lavender is the academic color of dentistry, and we gave her her pin.
Yeah, right.
You don't get to talk, not yet. Are there any board member comments?
I just want to say that it was a pleasure working with you, Dr. Montes. I really enjoyed my time here with you.
Yes.
I also have a comment. I just want to wish you so much joy and so much happiness in your retirement. You were so supportive of me when I joined the board, and we came in probably about the same time. And so I just always want you to know how much I appreciate how kind you were to me.
Okay, any other board comments? Go
Thank
ahead.
you for all your hard work and your commitment. It truly showed, especially during these meetings. But also want to wish you lots of luck in your new adventures in life.
Go ahead.
I had the opportunity to be the president at the time that Tracy was brought down to us from DCA. It was a difficult time for our board at that time. We had lots of problems, and I had very much concern about what's this woman going to bring down, being a psychometrician, whatever that is. And despite all of her experience and everything else she's been doing, she hasn't really run a board like ours. And dentistry is a little different, and we are a little different as dentists, aren't we all? So the bottom line is, I was very concerned. I was overwhelmed when she got here and hit the ground running, and has done nothing but continue to grow, continue to lead, continue to help us, continue to keep me in line, that's a tremendous, tremendous obligation. And you will certainly be missed. Christy has been learning from you, and I look forward to working with her, as we will. But you have done a phenomenal job of coming in and doing things for the board. Thank you for everything you've done.
Now, are
Yeah.
there any in-person public comments?
May I? I would just like to thank the board for their confidence in me, the council members as well. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm so thankful that the DCA director had the confidence in me to assign me here and work with all of you. It's been phenomenal. We've done amazing things, and I have no doubt that Christy and all of you will continue. And that's because, again, we have a great staff. And so I'm excited, and I don't know, you may see me at a board meeting cheering you on, but again, thank you so much. I truly appreciate the recognition.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other in-person public comments?
Dr. Chan, can I add one? Just
Yes, go ahead.
So Dr. Montes, I really just want to thank you. There was a dinner in Anaheim at Bico de Pepo, and I was asking for personal advice on my PhD. And I really want to say thank you, because not only did you provide support, mentorship, coaching, and guidance as a board member, but you invested in the human I am outside of the board. And I am very grateful for that. Thank you.
Sure.
Sherry Becker, representing Sherry Becker. I want to thank Tracy for all of her hard work and investment. It's been awesome. Thanks for the ride. And Sherry Becker, representing the Alliance. On behalf of the Alliance, we want to extend our gratitude towards job well done, and you will be missed. And we look forward to working with Christy. Thank you.
Tukazokai,
representing CDA and myself, I would just like to thank Tracy for everything she's done to help move forward some really just challenging and interesting policies, legislation. And from when I joined CDA was around the same time that Dr. Montez also stepped into this role. So she's all I've known, and it's been great working with the board and connecting with her. And I've learned so much. She's been a wealth of knowledge and just really appreciate that collaboration. And she'll be very missed, but wishing her the best on her future adventures.
Bruce Witcher, CDA and past board member. I worked with Tracy off and on over the years in her capacity over at DCA on various examination issues, and her expertise was greatly appreciated at that time. And I had no doubt when she came over to the board as our EO that that expertise would apply here as well. So it's been great knowing her and working with her. And I would caution her, having retired myself and gone back to work, retirement is not so easy. You might find yourself back in a job before you know it. And I hope so, because we would welcome your input. Thank you.
Gary Cooper, representing Cal Amos, the oral and maxillofacial surgeons. I too want to echo the comments that have been made about Tracy. You know, I've worked with her now for the last 4 years. And what is really amazing about her is the fact that she, as Dr. Felsenfeld indicated, she picked it up very quickly. She's been with DCA for a long time, but she picked up this particular area very quickly. And she's also been very, very accessible. A lot of times it's been difficult to get a hold of some folks. Her, it's very easy to get a hold of. And I want to thank her for all of her wonderful work. And I wish her the very best in her retirement.
Thank you. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator for members of the public who are currently on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, you can click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon down at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. If you're an audio-only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and I do have a request from Leslie Canham. And Leslie, you'll be given 2 minutes to speak with a 30-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Leslie Cannon, and I'm a registered provider of continuing education for both the Dental Practice Act infection control courses and the 8-hour infection control course. And I wanted to thank Tracy Montez for quickly responding to my email questions. I have many questions from speaking to many dental professionals in California and across the nation, but particularly in California, to resolve confusion regarding some regulations. Ms. Montez has been expedient in responding to my responses and my questions, and that helps me to disseminate information to California dental professionals, which I'm sure reduces the number of phone calls to both CDA and to the California Dental Board. So thank you very much for your prompt responses to questions of concern.
DCA moderator, go ahead.
All right, this is the moderator. Next, I have Susan McLaren. And Susan, you'll be given 2 minutes to speak with a 30-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Thanks, Dr. Montez, for her work with the Dental Board of California and her coordination with the Dental Hygiene Board and dental hygienists in general. And we wish her much good times, many good times. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. Next, I have Joanne. And Joanne, you'll be given 2 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
This is Joanne Pacheco, previous board member representing myself. And I just wanted to congratulate Tracy and thank her for her talent and her utmost professionalism. And I just know how talented she is, and I get the feeling we'll see her again. So congratulations, Tracy. And I miss all of you. Have a good meeting.
All right, this is the moderator. Next, I have Anthony Lum. And Anthony, you'll be given 2 minutes to speak with a 30-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Good morning, dental board members. This is Anthony Lum, Executive Officer of the Dental Hygiene Board. I apologize that I can't be there in person. I'm a bit under the weather today, but just wanted to convey my congratulations to Tracy. And I know she'll have fun in retirement, and just appreciate all the collaboration that she's had since she's been the Executive Officer of the Dental Board. And my board appreciates all the collaborative efforts that we've done over the years, and appreciate future collaborations as well. So congratulations, Tracy, and good luck in retirement. Take care. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. Appears there are no further requests for public comment.
Thank you. And thank you again, Dr. Montez, for your service, for advancing this board, and for mentoring a lot of us to see ahead. Thank you. We'll now move on to agenda item 5, Assistant Executive Officer Report. We're on page 49 of the materials. I'm going to ask Christy Bell, Assistant Executive Officer, to present this agenda item.
Thank you. Christy Bell, Assistant Executive Officer. I wanted to do a little introduction so you can all get to know me. I first joined the board in December of 2022. However, I have been with the Department of Consumer Affairs for over 10 years in various positions. Today, we will have a presentation by DCA's Solid on strategic planning. The Dental Board's current strategic plan is for the years 2022 through 2025 and is concluding. The presentation will be during the board meeting and is agenda item 8. If you are not able to stay, you can refer to the webcast to watch later. Strategic planning will also be discussed again at the May board meeting. I also wanted to let you know that the 2025 DPA will be available to order soon, and we will have that information posted on our website in the coming weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any board member comment? Seeing none. Is there any in-person public comment? Good morning. No? Okay, I know. Seeing no in-person public comments, are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA monitor, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator, and for members of the public on WebEx, if you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon down at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. For audio-only participants, you may raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Well, thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 6, report on Department of Consumer Affairs activities, which may include updates on the department's administrative services, human resources, enforcement, information technology, communications, and outreach, as well as legislative, regulatory, and policy matters. We're on page 50 of the materials, of the meeting materials. I'm going to ask Melissa Gear, DCA Board and Bureau Relations Deputy Director, to provide this report. Good morning.
Good morning. So, hello and good morning, President Dr. Chan, Vice President Dr. Feldenfeld, Assistant Executive Officer Bell, and members of the board. I'm Melissa Gear, Deputy Director for Board and Bureau Relations. I appreciate the opportunity to share the Department of Consumer Affairs update this morning. I want to congratulate Dr. Yu on his reappointment to the board and his continued commitment to protecting the consumers of California. I also would like to take a moment to thank Dr. Sonia Molina, Meredith McKenzie, and Joanne Pacheco for their service and commitment to the board and California's consumers. I wish them well in their future endeavors. I would also like to take a moment to thank Executive Officer Dr. Tracy Montez for her service to the board and the consumers of California and wish her well in retirement. Congratulations, Tracy. Next up, we have Governor's Executive Order. On January 29th, 2025, Governor Newsom released Executive Order N-1525, providing quick recovery relief for local businesses by deferring renewal fees and waiving other fees for DCA licensees in the Los Angeles wildfire areas. Specific DCA provisions include DCA licensees where licenses expire between January 1st and July 1st, 2025, will be granted a one-year extension to pay their renewal fee if their business or residence address is in certain zip codes impacted by the fires. Licensees will still need to renew their licenses, but their fees will be postponed for 1 year. In addition, duplicate or replacement licenses or wall certificates will be provided free of charge until January 7th, 2026, and delinquency fees are suspended until July 1st, 2025 for those in the impacted areas. DCA met with Board and Bureau leadership January 29th after the executive order was released by the governor and discussed the executive order at its implementation. DCA is providing messaging to the boards and bureaus for dissemination to the impacted licensees, as well as consistent messaging for use on all board and bureau websites. Additionally, we have asked the boards and bureaus to share the executive order and fee deferral opportunity with stakeholders. We want to ensure this information is shared with as many as possible. In addition, DCA has a specific disaster help center webpage accessible at www.dca.ca.gov that includes information on the executive order, frequently asked questions, and other important resources that may be helpful as our licensees and survivors as they navigate the rebuilding process. DCA also has a dedicated toll-free number, 1-800-799-8314, and email cafires@dca.ca.gov, available for fire survivors needing assistance. Each DCA board and bureau website has been updated with information for individuals impacted by the fires. In addition, DCA's Office of Information Services, DCA's IT team, has developed landing pages for all online databases, so those going through the renewal process will receive information regarding the fee deferral when they go to renew their license online. DCA has also provided each board and bureau a list of the impacted licensees based on their provided zip codes and is encouraging boards and bureaus to reach out to those licensees directly to inform them of the executive order and the relief available. We are grateful to the governor for this opportunity to assist our licensees in their time of unprecedented need. A special thank you to the DCA board and bureau leadership for their continued partnership and commitment to help survivors. DCA sincerely appreciates all the boards and committees' efforts. Next, Governor Newsom released his proposed 2025-26 state budget on January 10th, which included 8 budget change proposals, or BCPs, for DCA's boards and bureaus. Additionally, DCA's vacancy reduction and government efficiency plans were approved by the Department of Finance and may be made official in the spring revisions. The governor remains committed to funding resources to address California's housing and homelessness crisis. Included in the governor's proposed budget is the creation of a dedicated California Housing and Homeless Agency. The Department of Consumer Affairs and their regulators, currently under the Business and Consumer Services and Housing Agency, would form a consumer protection agency. This is an extraordinary opportunity for DCA to better align with other consumer protection entities as one consumer protection agency. With a consumer protection agency secretary within the governor's cabinet, this is an exciting opportunity that will only strengthen our mission, momentum, and delivery of services to California. The governor's reorganization proposal will be reviewed by the nonpartisan Little Hoover Commission and the legislature in the spring. As more information is available, DCA will continue to keep board leadership updated. The governor signed AB 1170, which requires board members to now file their Form 700s electronically with the Fair Political Practice Commission, or FPPC, using the FPPC's electronic filing system. Effective January 1st, 2025, DCA board members must file Form 700s through the FPPC's online system. Filings will no longer be filed via the NetFile portal that DCA board members have been using for many years. Additionally, paper filings will not be accepted. The FPPC emailed all board members on January 2nd, 2025 with a link to the FPPC portal and login information. As a reminder, the annual Form 700 filing deadline is Tuesday, April 1st, 2025. Please contact Board and Bureau Relations with questions regarding the new requirements at memberrelations@cda.ca.gov. Next, DCA invites presidents and vice presidents to attend our annual President's Training on February 19th from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. This virtual training is for board members who are new to the role of president or vice president and those who have served in the role for a year or more. The training will review the role of a board president, communication best practices with the executive officer and board members, as well as the president's administrative duties. It also includes a panel of prior board members who will share their knowledge and expertise and answer questions from attendees. Learning from each other is a large part of this training, and we look forward to seeing all presidents and vice presidents there. Please register online using DCA's Learning Management System, or LMS. Save the date. Board member orientation, or BMOT, must be completed within 1 year of appointment and reappointment to the board. BMOT is an all-day virtual training that DCA will offer on March 26th, June 18th, and October 22nd. Please register for the first available date to be compliant. Board members can register for BMOT using DCA's Learning Management System, or LMS. Finally, I wanted to provide an update regarding DCA's Board and Bureau Relations team. Yvonne Durantes served as the Assistant Deputy Director of Board and Bureau Relations since October of 22. On December 6th, the governor appointed Yvonne as the Assistant Deputy Director of Legislative and Government Affairs at the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services. Yvonne's last day at DCA was December 31st. We appreciate Yvonne's dedication to the Board and Bureau Relations team and wish her well in her new role. As I close, on behalf of the director, I would like to thank the board and the staff for their hard work and partnership last year. We are excited about 2025 and the many opportunities that await us. Thank you for your dedicated service that protects California's consumers every day. I appreciate your time this morning and welcome any questions from the board.
Thank you for your report, Ms. Gear. Are there any board member comments? Seeing none, there's no action at this time. Are there any in-person public comments? Seeing none. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA monitor, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator for members of the public who are currently on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, you can click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. Audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you. We're going to move on to agenda item 7, budget report. We're on pages 51 through 57 of the printed meeting materials. I'm going to ask Wilbert Ramboa, Administrative Services Unit Manager, to present this agenda item. Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Chan. Thank you for the introduction. Good morning, board members. I will be providing a brief update on the board's budget. As of January 10th, the governor's budget was released, and the new appropriation for the dental board is $20,272,000, and revenue is reported at $23,883,000. As mentioned previously by Ms. Gear, the finalization for the budget letters for the control section, the control section 4.12 and 4.05, the dental board will be losing approximately 2 positions, and the reduction from the board has been identified as $147,000, which should be maybe finalized by spring. On page 55 of your materials, the board is projected to revert roughly $1.5 million. And from that, it's going to be 4 million in personal services that is projected and, sorry, 5 million in OE&E. And the projected revenues for the year are 20.3 million to the end of the fiscal year is what's currently projected. There's no action items on this agenda item. If you have any questions, I am available.
Thank you for your report. Is there any board member comment?
You mentioned that there were some funds to be reverted to what? To the general fund or what?
To our fund, so to the dental board fund.
Reverted from where?
So from the appropriation, we have a set amount that we can spend each year.
Okay.
And so if we do not spend the entirety of that amount goes back to
Into our
our
fund.
fund.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah, and just for the records, if the board members would identify who they are before they make the comment. Thank you. Any other board member comments? Go ahead.
You know what I'm going to ask about the
Who are you?
$5,000. I'm Dr. Lunny. I was going to ask about, it says here where it mentions a $5 million repayment will be coordinated as part of any future regulatory and statutory fee increase proposal. Is that the renewal fees for dentists? What kind of increase would that relate to?
If there was a potential fee increase
In-
that we,
Of what? Like membership?
it would be the fee increase for for any licensing fees.
Of what? Excuse me?
Licensing fees.
License fees, but not fees for dental assistant programs, because I saw we have some increase in fees of other items, like I think the radiation permits and things like that. Does that not include that? Because I noticed that there's some increases happening in other areas, like licensure fees for courses, I believe it was, or art radiation applications, things. I noticed it in the book that there's increases for other items not related to licensure renewal. Does that include all of that, all of the fees, or just the licensure renewal?
If I can, Christy Bell, Assistant Executive Officer. I think you're talking about the fees in that legislative proposal, and they are not new fees. They're already existing. We're just getting them into statute so that the information is captured.
Can you please repeat that?
They are not new fees. They've always been charged. We're just getting them into statute so that it's in the record.
But I believe there was an increase there somewhere also. Maybe
So-
we haven't seen it. I just read it in the book somewhere.
I will.
So that means that before the repayment has to be coordinated only when we have an increase in renewal fees?
Okay, so to answer your question, I think I'll take further note, but so in regards to fees are typically set via statute. And so the regulations that we're doing clarify how much those fees are going to be. So we're not at the statutory cap on all of our fees yet, but for those that have been identified, we're clarifying what those fees are going to be set at. So the key word here is existing fees versus new fees. So the 5 million would not come into play unless there are any new fees for the dental board and dental assistants that we would be pursuing. But at this time, we're not pursuing that.
Could I comment?
That makes sense.
Go ahead.
Robert David,
Increase.
I think what you're talking about is there was a loan made from our fund to the general fund, right? And before any fee increases are anticipated, that money has to be repaid to us, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I think that's where you were going.
Yes, I did understand that part, but I did notice other fee increases elsewhere, but that's okay. I'll speak to you about it later.
Any other board comment? Go ahead.
There are fee changes submitted to the board under
agenda item 11C, applications for dentist licensure. Okay, yeah, just to, parse this out, there's the dental assisting program and course fees. That's a legislative proposal. That's not actually any increase in fees. That's just reflective of what the board has been charging under regulation. And separately, there is a regulatory package that would change the dentist licensure fees.
Any other board comments? Seeing none, there are no actions at this time. Are there any in-person public comments? Seeing none, are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA monitor, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator, and for members of the public on WebEx, if you would like to make a public comment on this item, you can click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. Audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you. We are going to postpone agenda item 8, presentation from DCA Strategic Organizational Leadership and Individual Development, SOLID, on strategic planning, and it's on page 58. We're going to postpone that until after lunch. We're going to move on to agenda item number 9, which is, let's see, the report on the Dental Hygiene Board of California activities. We're on pages 59 through 61 of the meeting materials. I'm going to ask Ms. Bell to provide this report.
Thank you. Christy Bell, Assistant Executive Officer. Mr. Anthony Lum, Executive Officer of the Dental Hygiene Board of California, has provided a written report regarding the Dental Board of California's draft of California Code of Regulations, Title 16, Section 1005, Minimum Standards for Infection Control Regulations, and its collaboration with the Dental Hygiene Board of California. No action is requested, and this item is informational only. The Dental Hygiene Board of California reviewed and approved the draft language at its November 16th, 2024 board meeting to provide consensus. This is regarding agenda item 11B, which will be discussed later in the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that report in absentia. Are there any board members comment? Seeing none. Are there any in-person public comments? Seeing none. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA monitor, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator, and for members of the public on WebEx, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand icon. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are, oh, I apologize. We do have a request from Leslie Canham. And Leslie, you'll be given 2 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Thank you, Leslie Canham. I'm a certified and registered dental assistant and also certified in dental infection prevention and control and authorized by the federal government as an OSHA outreach trainer. I am a provider of continuing education for the Dental Board of California and the Academy of General Dentistry, and I am authorized to provide the infection control 2-hour course for license renewal and the 8-hour infection control course for unlicensed dental assistants. My concern with the draft regulation for the minimum standards for infection control is there are a variety of flaws and inconsistencies with OSHA regulations and with CDC recommendations, both from 2003 recommendations for infection control in dental healthcare settings and the 2016 update, as well as other discussion for future changes to CDC guidelines for dental settings. I'm also extremely concerned with the lack of information or requirements on the infection control regulations for dental unit water lines, that there's inconsistencies with CDC's recommendations for treatment, testing and monitoring and strategies to improve water quality purging and flushing document has been identified in the infection control guidelines as it was in, the infection control minimum standards as it was in 2011, which the CDC states that purging and flushing dental unit water lines does not
30 seconds.
unit water quality and can be a safety issue for patient care. I would like to also offer my assistance to the boards or the working committees on the infection control regulation guidelines so that I can provide insight and input. I have top of mind information on not only the regulations for OSHA, but also for CDC, as I have written infection control questions for the dental assisting.
We're going to have to interrupt you. You're
the
exceeding your
ICC
time.
test, and I can be helpful in providing.
All right, apologies. Time is up. And it appears we have no further requests for public comment.
Well, we thank you for your comments. It'll be tackled later on the subject matter that you're presenting. We're going to move on to agenda item 10, Dental Assisting Council Meeting Report. We're on page 62 of the meeting materials. I'm going to ask Ms. Deandra Epps Chair of the Dental Assisting Council, to present this agenda item. Sorry. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. The Dental Assisting Council Chair Report. The Dental Assisting Council of the Dental Board of California met Thursday, February 6, 2025. The meeting was also held via WebEx events for public participation. After calling the meeting to the order and establishing a quorum, public comment was taken. The November meeting minutes were approved. The Assistant Executive Officer report on items including the upcoming strategic planning process and updates were provided by the board staff on dental assisting examination, licensing, and programs and courses approval. A brief update on plans for the Dental Assisting Regulation Working Group was provided. The council then discussed initiating the rulemaking to amend California Code of Regulations, Title 16, Section 1005, regarding minimum standards for infection control. The council took public comment and made the following recommendations to the board. After robust discussion, the council moved for the language to go back for revision by the Infection Control Working Group to address stakeholders' concerns. Finally, the council discussed the legislative proposal to amend Business and Professional Code Sections 1725, 1750, and 1753.52, and repeal Sections 1754.5 and 1755 regarding dental assisting courses. The council listened, took public comment, and made the following recommendations to the board. And that would be for item on agenda 9B. The council moved to approve the recommendation for submission to the board, the legislative proposal to amend BPC sections 1725, 1750, and 1753.52. The repeal BPC sections 1754.5 and 1755 regarding dental assisting courses.
That's it?
Yes.
Just to clarify, the motion that came out of the Dental Assisting Council meeting for agenda item 9B was a motion to amend Business and Professions Code Section 1725, 1753.52, 1754.5, and 1755.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your report. Is there any other board comment? Seeing none, there's no action at this time on this agenda item. Are there any in-person public comments? Seeing none, Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA Monitor, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator, and for members of the public on WebEx, if you would like to make a comment on this item, you can click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon down at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. Audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device.
Got it. Got it.
All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for your report.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to agenda item 11. It's the status of update on pending regulations. We're on page 63. Going to ask Mr. Brent Nelson, Legislative and Regulatory Specialist, to present this agenda item. Good morning. And Christy Shields, thank you. Good morning. Good morning.
Morning, my name is Brent Nelson.
Are you on?
For the record, I did not break this microphone. My name is Brent Nelson. I'm the Legislative and Regulatory Specialist for the Dental Board. I'll be presenting agenda item 11A, which begins on page 63 of your meeting materials. So there are currently no pending regulations. This item is information only and no action is requested. And I just want to point out that although there are no pending items, there are certainly some things coming down the chimney boots first. We've got a lot of stuff coming and we'll be briefing on that later. But this concludes the agenda item and thank you.
Okay. So are there any other board member discussions on this item, 11A? Seeing none, any in-person public comments on this 11A item? Seeing none. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA Monitor, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator, and for members of the public on WebEx, if you would like to make a comment on this item, you can click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon down at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. Audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you. We're going to move on to agenda item 11B, discussion and possible action to initiate a rulemaking to amend California Code of Regulations, CCR, Title 16, Section 1005, regarding minimum standards for infection control. We're on pages 64 through 145. And Mr. Nelson, you're up.
Thank you, Dr. Chan. Business and Professions Code Section 1680 requires the dental board to review infection control guidelines. Proposed changes to the guidelines must be reviewed by the Dental Hygiene Board of California. So the board and the Dental Hygiene Board established a consensus by working together. The board last updated the language way back in 2011, but CDC guidelines were last updated June 2024. So we need to update our minimum control language. So back at the February 2024 meeting, the board president appointed Joanne Pacheco and Kara Miyazaki to serve as the board's working group. After many months, we had the language in a good place and consulted with the Dental Hygiene Board and their subject matter experts. We worked on revisions and developed an agreed upon final draft. This is very dense material, very technical, but working together, we came to a good agreed upon final draft. We then made additional revisions on the agreed upon draft regarding the removal of a top shields reference from the safety glasses requirement as requested by CDA. So with that revision made, where the language stands now, we this morning at the dental assistant council, I'm sure you heard, we basically have some new valuable feedback to kind of assess and go through. And so I'll defer to Ms. Shield to discuss the next steps on this.
So this morning, we received about 8, what I call adverse comments about the proposed text, which we were recommending you adopt in attachment 2 of the meeting materials. That includes the issue that CDA had flagged at the Dental Hygiene Board meeting. So we'd addressed that, but there were about 8 additional adverse comments, one of which you heard in a prior agenda item, that were brought forward. So the council is recommending that this text be brought back to the working group for consideration. We did lose Joanne Pacheco. She was on the initial working group, but Ms. Alagi has graciously agreed to replace her and help us work through consideration of all the comments that have been received. So we would recommend at this time no action, and we would, unless you want to move forward, but we would suggest adopting the recommendations of the Dental Assisting Council to take it back to the working group for further work on these issues. But at this time, I would ask if there's any dental board or other public comment on the attachment 2 that you want us to also consider to work through with the working group. We just would like to get as much input as possible so we don't have to keep bringing this back over and over again. So I send it back to President Chan. Thank you.
Are there any other board comments? Go ahead.
I would just like to echo.
Identify.
Oh, Board Member Olagi, I would just like to echo from this morning that stakeholders do submit in writing any thoughts, comments, feedback to our executive officer for the working group. Oh, and anybody else to send it to? Sorry, Michelle.
You could either send it to Mr. Nelson or Ms. Bell. So I don't know, Ms. Bell, do you have a preference? Ms. Bell, do you prefer to receive the comments, or would you like them directed to Mr. Nelson?
Please send them to Mr. Nelson.
Okay, thank you.
So sending all comments, feedback to Mr. Nelson. I just want to echo that from this morning for that the working group can be able to have those on hand.
Any other board comments? Go ahead, Lilia.
Dr. Larin, I just also want to, I would like to follow the recommendations of the DAC, especially where it says immediately, that we have to do certain things immediately, which is totally not feasible. And the other comment about the motor, to see, just provide feedback on
whether it
how
could be
we are
sterilized.
to
Is that what you're
sterilize
talking
the-
about?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, let's go on to, there's no action item currently.
But I would
matter
ask if
is
you wouldn't
referred.
mind taking public comments to
sorry.
see if there's any additional negative feedback that we might need to take on. I mean, I just want to get as much feedback as possible.
Absolutely.
And when we have an opportunity to do that, so that you're not looking at this multiple times.
Right.
So I just,
And the purpose was that for the board comments, it was referred. So
yes, so
let's go on to
attachment
the,
2.
yeah, there's no motion right now. There's no motion for the board to consider, but we will ask now for public comment. Any in-person public comments? Seeing none? Let's go on to, are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx DCA Monitor? Please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator, and members of the public on WebEx, if you would like to make a comment on this item, you can click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon down at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. Audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. And it looks like we do have a request from Leslie Canham. And Leslie, you'll be given 2 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Okay.
Again, Leslie Canham, certified and registered dental assistant and certified in dental infection prevention and control. And as I mentioned at the dental council meeting earlier this morning for dental assistants, that I would like to volunteer my services on the working group for the draft regulations and submission of information for the infection control minimum standards. That I have a great deal of access to information and top of mind resources that I can provide. So I'm particularly concerned about the dental unit water line issues and how that would affect the safety of the California consumer.
Mhm.
Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator, and it appears there are no further requests for public comment on this item.
Are there any other board comments? Go ahead.
Felsenfeld, Vice President, I would like to, for my own edification, because I sat there and listened to all this morning, get a little confused. We had agreement that the top shield is out, excuse me, and that was the motion that we wanted to pass through.
Correct.
The problem was we got a series of other, if half a dozen, at least half a dozen other concerns that we had. Then, let me, this is long, sorry about that, Ms. Shields. Then there was a discussion of rescinding it. You didn't have to do that, but you made a motion to refer this back to the work group. When you make, I'm a parliamentary geek, I'm sorry, I apologize, but parliamentarily, that's a higher level motion, which means you don't have to rescind the old one. If you refer it back, that whole package, including all of the comments, motors notwithstanding, everything, goes back to the work group and they look at everything. That's the whole point. We don't have that in front of us right now. We have nothing in front of us because there's no motion, as I understand it. Am I correct, or am I missing
There's no
something?
motion.
There's no motion. So I would like to make a motion that we accept the recommendations of the council and that we refer back, unfortunately, because I don't think it's a great idea, but we have no options, to refer back all of the comments plus the original motion that we had for more work by the group.
So there was no motion to rescind anything at the Dental Assisting Council meeting. It was as a recommendation to come to you to rescind it.
Okay.
So,
It's still the same motion here.
but the motion that you had passed previously to send this matter to the working group still is in play, so to speak. So I guess we were thinking that we didn't need to do all of that, but I don't have any concerns if he wants to make that motion.
Okay.
We would just have to take public comment on it.
Make the motion as well.
Okay.
Ms. Welch, what's your?
I would say that the board doesn't have anything to really act on because it was referred back to the DAC for action and they have referred it down to the working group. So
So we don't have
the
to
da-
act on it.
that's correct. There's
Okay.
nothing for you to do
Okay.
at this time.
So if we don't have a second, the motion dies. That's fine. I was under the impression that they wanted us to make a decision, but if at that level they can refer back, then we're fine. Problem solved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
But we,
Go ahead.
Board Member Olagi, I just want to make a comment. So I know the word immediately came up in two situations or from this. Going into the working group, I want to look at that word language because in my mindset, if your PPE becomes soiled or saturated, example, during an OS procedure, pediatrics, a child exercise, that is an immediate that needs to be changed. So us just looking at the history of that language and that word before going to a different pathway. And I consider, I want us just to bring that up as discussion and for stakeholders too, of us coming to like some type of collaboration in that word, because that's how I've always historically have understood it in the history of knowing this language. Again, I just want to bring that to conversation and wanted to share that comment.
Well, and you're in the working group, fortunately, so have a lot of say in how that, right. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to bring that up while stakeholders are in the room, are able to hear and us looking at. And I do echo the importance of us looking at the dental water unit lines.
Any other board comments? Seeing none, let's move on to agenda item 11C. Discussion and possible action to initiate a rulemaking to amend CCR Title 16, Sections 1021, 1028, 1028.4, 1028.5, 1030, and 1035, and repeal sections 1032, 1032.1, 1032.2, 1032.3, 1032.4, 1032.5, 1032.6, 1032.7, 1032.8, 1032.9, 1032.10, 1033.1, 1034, and 1036.01 regarding applications for dentist licensure and fees. We're on page 146 and through page 220 on the meeting materials. Going to ask Mr. Nelson to present this item.
Thank you, Dr. Chan. I'm joined by my colleague, Chief of Licensing and Examination, Jody Ortiz. And Ms. Ortiz, would you like to inform the board about this particular item?
I would, thank you. Good morning or good
Morning.
afternoon, and congratulations to both of you. Good afternoon. So at the November 23 board meeting, staff presented a rulemaking proposal to update the board's application regulations for licensure by examination to reflect changes in law and regulations and add changes to licensing unit processes and procedures. The board approved these proposed changes at its November 2023 board meeting. This rulemaking was placed on hold as part of the SB 1453 sunset bill. The discussion and recommendations for the board, the staff recommend updating specified dentist licensing fees and applications to make further changes to existing dentist licensure application regulations as set forth in the attachment 1. And these changes would include the elimination of all references and regulations to portfolio examination, including the application form, which is on attachment 3, and the associated fees and related portfolio licensing standards. Also, a fee increase for processing the initial dentist licensing application using 8X or REB pathway from $400 to $490. Board staff conducted a new desk audit to support the fee increase in this proposal that considers both methods of application submissions, either via paper or online, and the revised salary rate calculator to support these fee proposals is in attachment 7. A fee increase for processing the law and ethics examination application from $125 to $180, CCR 1021. Again, board staff conducted a desk audit to support these fee increases, and that proposal is considered for online and paper method application submissions. And that is in attachment 8. Amendments to CCR sections 1028, 1028.4 and 1028.5 to repeal the forms incorporated by reference in these sections regarding submissions of paper forms and instead place those applications and associated requirements in a narrative form to allow for electronic paper application submission options as specified in attachments 2, 4, and 5. These proposed changes were made to implement the transition to the board's online electronic application licensing system, better known as BREEZE. A new convenience fee for those submitting applications online in CCR sections 1028, 1028.4, and 1028.5. The board has absorbed these fees in the past. This proposal would pass this credit card convenience fee charged to the credit card directly to the applicant whenever BREEZE is used to submit a credit card payment for the application fee in accordance with Government Code Section 6159. Applicants choosing to use the paper option would not pay this convenience fee. They would just need to submit a cash, check, or money order, or cashier's check payable to the dental board. And then finally, implement requirements in CCR section 1030 for applicants to show proof of successful completion of the National Board Dental Examination of the Joint Commission on National Dental Examination. The proposal would require applicants submit confirmation to the board within 1 year from the date of submission of the initial licensure application. And the action is requested for option 1.
Thank you. Board comments, go ahead.
Hello, Robert David.
Hi.
The initial license fee proposal to move from 400 to 490, when was it last raised?
It's
a good
been
question.
more than a decade since we've raised any of the license application fees. So What we did, when you're required to do by the Department of Finance, because they also review our regulation proposals, is to do either a fee study or a desk audit to justify any increase. That was done by staff back in 2023 with rate calculators that were projections. Now we have actuals, and so the staff revisited that calculator that they used and used actual numbers because we were in the current budget year that we're going to be going into that where these fees would be enacted if you approve them today. And so that number is actually $10 lower than we originally projected, but they're based on actual
Thank you.
hourly calculators.
And just for the record, that was Ms. Shields offering that
Oh, sorry.
response.
Christy
Yeah.
Shields, Regulations Counsel for
Thank
the
you.
board. Sorry, I apologize.
Go ahead.
Hello, this is Dr. Loreen again. Well, this fee increase is exactly what I had mentioned earlier in my comment, that is it tied into the loan repayment?
I am not sure if a license application fee increase would trigger repayment or if it would be the renewal fee that would trigger repayment. Do you know, Ms. Welch? Okay, we'd have to get back to you on that. It's not my understanding that a license fee increase, but I haven't looked at the loan repayment requirements to see. So, but we are required by state policy and the state administrative manual to recover the actual costs for any service we provide, which is why we had to reevaluate whether the application that we're updating would cause services to be more costly. And as we know, everything's more costly right now. So yes, it is more expensive to process an application, and currently you're absorbing this cost. And so we have the authority to increase the fee to recover those costs that you've been losing money on. And the proposal would be to increase it to $490 to recover the cost that you've been losing on the application.
Okay, so when they say it has to be repaid the loan when you have a fee increase like this one, would it be because this fee is under the statutory fee cap authority?
You know, I haven't looked at that budget
Is it
act
still
loan
under?
repayment requirements, so I couldn't comment on whether this fee increase would trigger the loan repayment. That's something you'd have to work from budget office to find out. I don't have an answer for you.
I just want our
apologize.
money back.
Oh, no. Any other board comments? I think what we are on next, though, is having an action item before us. So we're on page 149.
I'm sorry.
go
Ms.
ahead.
Regali might have the answer for us. Did she want to comment?
She didn't want to comment.
Oh, no, I was
No.
told she wanted to comment.
Okay.
Sorry. Apologies.
Okay, so again, we're on page 149. Do we have a motion before us to look at which option? When someone want to move it? Not yet.
We're asking for option 1 on motions.
So
Move option
Medina,
1, letting motion 1?
second, and Loren move the motion.
Yes.
Okay, and this is a long one to read, so can we, as written, option number 1?
Tara?
Option number 1.
Do we want them to read the motion, or do you want me to read it for you? And then, would that help?
Well, since this is more of an Office of Administrative Law issue.
It is.
To make sure that it's very clear in the board's meeting minutes, the rulemaking record, I would advise to read the whole thing. You know, one of
You're
us
up.
can do it if you
Can I
don't
do
want
that?
to,
You
but.
want me to do that?
read
I
it.
can do that.
Oh, no, yeah.
You want me to read the motion?
Yes, please.
Move to rescind the board's prior November 9th, 2023 motion approving prior text for this item and instead approve the proposed regulatory text in attachment 1, including the repeal of the forms incorporated by reference in attachments 2 through 6. I further direct staff to submit the text to the Director, Department of Consumer Affairs and Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency for review. If no adverse comments are received, authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to initiate the rulemaking process, make any non-substantive changes to the text and to the package, and set the matter for a hearing if requested. If after the 45-day public comment period, no adverse comments are received, and no public hearing is requested, authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to complete the amendments, the rulemaking, and adopt the proposed regulations as noted for CCR Title 16 for amendments to sections 1021, 1028, 1028.4, 1028.5, 1030, and 1035, and for the repeal of sections 1032, 1032.1, 1032.2, 1032.3, 1032.4, 1032.5, 1032.6, 1032.7, 1032.8, 1032.9, 1032.10, 1033.1, 1034, and 1036.01. That sounds like a song to me.
Hum a few
Okay.
bars. So after taking a breath on that one, are there any in-person public comments on the motion before us? Seeing none. Dr. McKee.
Dr.
Seeing none, let's go on. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA monitor, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. If you're an audio-only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment.
Thank you. Board Secretary, please call the roll and record the votes for this agenda item.
Just to clarify, was it a second from Chan?
No, from Medina.
Medina second. Okay, I'll take the vote. Chan?
Chan, aye.
And I, Cheng?
Chang, I.
Cheng, I, David?
David, aye.
David, I, Felsenfeld?
Felsenfeld, yes.
Felsenfeld, I, Forge?
Forge, aye.
Forge, I, Larin, I, Medina?
Medina, aye.
Medina, I, Olage?
Olagi, aye.
Olage, I, Thakur? Thakur?
Uh-oh,
You?
UI.
You, I, Thakur? Okay, motion passes.
probably have it, eh?
I apologize. This is the moderator. Looks like Dr. Thakur fell off, but I got her promoted back in.
Hello, Dr. Thakur. Do you have a motion
Aye. Thank
Aye.
you.
on
There
on
you go.
agenda 11C? Okay, thank you.
And the motion
passes.
passed.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
After that one, we're going to recess for lunch.
Hmm.
Got to come back in about an hour, right? What time?
Whatever time you want.
1:15. Okay.
I'm here.
Oh, thank you, guys. Okay, we are back in session. We're going to be going to item number 8. Do we have a person from number for the solid here? Okay.
This is the moderator. I'm actually the presenter from Solid. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend in person since I'm moderating the meeting.
Okay. All
yeah.
right. Let me do the get to the right page here. Page 20. Okay, we are on agenda item 8. We're in session. Presentation from DCA, Strategic Organizational Leadership and Individual Development, SOLID, on strategic planning. And please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Sarah Irani. I am a strategic business analyst and facilitator with Solid. And I also do these WebEx meetings. All right,
Thank
I'm
you.
going to take over control of the presentation so I can pull up my slides.
And we are on page 58 of the printed meeting materials.
All right, so once again, I'm Sarah Irani from Solid's planning team, and I'm going to be facilitating your strategic planning process this year. Your strategic plan goes through 2025, and the new one will start in 2026. So we're going to cover the what, why, and how of strategic planning. So first off, what is strategic planning? This is a process for organizations to define their direction, decide how they're going to utilize their resources to achieve their mission and goals. This is going to help you determine what your organization is, what it does, and why it does it. So why do we conduct strategic planning? It's critical and efficient to effective operations. It's also legislatively mandated, so it's a good thing to have a strategic plan in place, especially a current one. And a strategic plan also helps to achieve your short-term and long-term goals. When you have that strategic plan, you're kind of able to determine what goals you want to focus on for the year based on your resources. And it's kind of like a nice, handy little guideline or map for you to follow. And how is a strategic plan created? This is going to be a 5-phase strategic planning process. Includes surveying of stakeholders, reporting of those survey results, and then we're going to have a strategic planning workshop to determine, based off that feedback, what objectives we want to identify. And I apologize for the small text. But I will try to read some of it in case you can't see it. So this is the roadmap for a strategic plan. And as you can tell, it kind of is a lengthy process. Right now, we're kind of in the preliminary meeting and setup where we are giving introductions of strategic planning. I have already met with both Tracy and Christy to kind of go over what are some needs for starting the strategic planning process and determining kind of a timeline. We're most likely going to get started in June or July, so you'll probably hear more from me then. And around that time, we'll start the environmental scan process. Here, we send out an online survey to stakeholders. These could be your licensees, any people in consumer groups, other educational institutions or other boards that you may work with. At the same time, I'll also be conducting interviews with you, the board members, to get your feedback on how you believe the board is doing. We'll get information from staff as well. And then once all that information is gathered, I will compile and report it into a report, which is called the Environmental Scan Report. And it'll have a summary of what everyone believes are the strengths and weaknesses for each of your goal areas and kind of have you figure out what your stakeholders are feeling about the board and kind of comparing that to what your board members are also feeling. And so you can kind of get like a whole scope of everyone's thoughts. Once you have read over that report, we'll conduct the strategic planning session, and you'll use the information from that report to determine what objectives you want to focus on for the next 3 to 5 years, depending on how long your strategic plan is. Additionally, during that strategic planning session, we may review the mission, vision, and values and refine any of them if you feel that that's appropriate. And once we have conducted that, I will draft up your strategic plan. You'll get a chance to review and refine it. And then once it's adopted and approved, it'll get posted to your website. And then the last step for strategic planning is action planning, where I work with staff and we will identify individual steps for each of those objectives and kind of create a little map of how they're going to accomplish each of those objectives for your timeline. Additionally, as you may be aware, the governor issued an executive order to strengthen the state's commitment to a California for all by directing the state agencies and departments to take additional actions to include equity analysis and considerations into the policies and practices. And this includes the strategic planning process. Here at DCA, we're driven by our consumer protection mission and common goal to support our employees and the people and communities across California. As such, you will find that we have improved our strategic planning process to reflect our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. With this, we'll be incorporating DEI into our objectives, and this isn't represented by in the environmental scan survey. We have 4 questions at the end that are related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. As a heads up, we are making a couple edits to them, so it may not be 4, it may be 3. Additionally, there will be an analysis in the report. And while we do the strategic planning process, we will encourage that you incorporate DEI into your goal and objectives. Most of the time for other boards and bureaus, this usually is represented by offering handouts or information in other languages, or it could be making certain documents more accessible, such as posting them online, etc. Those are just a few examples that we've seen in the past from other boards and bureaus. And then just reminding that DEI impacts should be considered for policy decisions. All right, so the strategic planning components, and I kind of highlighted this during the roadmap, so I won't go into a lot of detail since I kind of went into detail already. Strategic planning answers a couple questions: the where are we now, where are we going, and how will we get there? The where are we now is answered by your mission and values and the environmental scan. The where are we going is the vision, goals, and objectives, and the how will we get there is determined by the action plan. So here you can see your mission statement, which is the Dental Board of California's mission is to protect and promote the oral health and safety of California consumers by ensuring the quality of dental health care within the state. So this is currently what your mission statement is now, and the mission statement basically says that this is what we are as an organization, and this is what's important to us. Obviously, when we get to strategic planning process, you may want to see if you want to tweak it or not, but this is what it is currently. And while your mission defines what your organization does, your values define how you do it. And these are the current values that you have: consumer protection, professionalism, accountability, efficiency, fairness, and diversity. And once again, these are some things that if we feel like some of these are still valid, or some of them we want to add new ones to, we can do that during the strategic planning process. And then for the environmental scan, we seek feedback from both the internal and external stakeholders. Your internal stakeholders are the board members, your staff, your management, your leadership. Your external stakeholders, these are going to be consumers or consumer groups, licensees, associations, anyone who is basically affected by the board or other boards that you work with. And we're going to get information from them on what they believe are the strengths and weaknesses for your board. So tied with the mission statement is the vision statement, and you can kind of think of the vision statement as what is your perfect world? If you accomplished every single one of your goals, what would it be? And that's your vision statement. And your current vision statement is the Dental Board of California will be a recognized leader in public protection, promotion of oral health, and access to quality care. And then these are your current goals. You have 4, which is a pretty good number for most boards. And goals are to differentiate them from objectives. These are your everyday things that you do. They're long-term, they're broad, and they give kind of a general direction of where you want to go as an organization. When we talk about objectives in just a little bit, those are much more narrow and specific, and are only for the timeline of your strategic plan. And they should be based on kind of the information from the feedback that you receive. As I mentioned earlier, the objectives are going to be under each goal area. This is what we'll be creating during that strategic planning session. They'll be based on trends and issues and initiatives that are kind of current in today's mainstream, that your internal stakeholders and external stakeholders are saying we need, help with this, etc. And these are things that you as a board would like to address during your strategic plan. And to give a little example, you can kind of imagine a strategic plan as like a house. Your mission, values, and visions are the foundation of that house. Your goals are the like walls and the structure that kind of like bring it all together. And then the objectives are, you can consider like furnishing. They're like your curtains and stuff that make the house a little bit nicer and are able to make it look good. And then once the strategic plan is all finalized and approved and posted on your website, we will do action planning with the staff, where here we evaluate resources, we identify tasks, assign responsibility. We'll create performance measures and assign ownership to each of those steps. You also get a nice little fancy tracker that the staff can use to kind of keep track of their how they're doing on those objectives, and they can use, if they choose to, they can use that information to report out during your board meetings. And for measuring progress, we do performance measures, establishing how success will be measured, and monitoring and tracking, using those tracking tools and conducting regular checkups during the whole process. All right, and that is it. Are there any questions on the strategic planning process? I know it's a lot of information.
Well, thank you for your report. Are there any board comments on what you've just heard? You overwhelmed them.
It is a lot of information. I apologize.
Oh, Christy.
I appreciate you laying out the structure for that. It's a really good outline. If you've ever had the opportunity to do strategic planning before, this is a great outline. Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Tracy Montez. I just wanted to add that we anticipate that this will come back at the actual May board meeting. You'll go into the next phase of this, and we will have an item, or you will have an item that will provide an update on the current strategic plan, which many of those goals and objectives have been achieved. So you can see what's been done, and then if there's anything you want to carry over into the new strategic plan. So that will be provided to you then.
Thank you. Comments? More comments? Alan?
Felsenfeld, just quickly, is there a financial implication to this for us as a board? Or is this being supplied through DCA?
Oh, yes. This is we are part of like the centralized services. As far as I am aware, this is covered by pro rata. So there's no additional cost or anything to this. I'm a DCA employee, so you get me for not necessarily free, but from pro rata.
No comment. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Tara.
Tara Welch, Board Counsel. Ms. Irani, when do you anticipate the environmental scan being completed for a presentation to the board?
For presentation, I believe when I talked with Christy and Tracy, we would begin strategic planning around June or July. Typically, that means the survey will go live then, and then the survey's open about 4 weeks. And then depending on the number of responses we get to that survey, probably need another 4 weeks to analyze and compile all that information. If it is in the thousands, I may need like 5 or 6 weeks. But I could probably, if I could, let me actually pull up when are the next meetings for dental board.
They're in August and November. Well, there's May, but the process won't begin until June or July. I don't think you'll have anything ready until August or for the August meeting. So the
Probably,
board
yeah.
is, looking at either holding a special meeting, not a special meeting, but a meeting scheduled outside of your normal quarterly meetings in October, or having an additional third day of a board meeting in November.
Yeah.
Felsenfeld, once again, I'm gonna yield to Dr. Montez, who's somewhat retired and on a program of exercise running up and down the aisle. So Dr. Montez.
So for the May board meeting, you will have an update on the current strategic plan, because I think that's important for you to have going into your next planning. And then I probably would encourage you to have a third day rather than having an additional board meeting, just because of the dynamics of getting everybody together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I go now? Okay, thank you, Dr. Montez. With respect to development of the strategic, I've been involved in other organizations putting together strategic plans. With respect to that, how much of the work is going to be done by our board members versus through DCA and through the expertise that you and your group have?
So the board members are included for like providing feedback and during the actual strategic planning process, where you'll be given that report ahead of time so you can read and kind of write down your own thoughts. And then during that session, it's like a workshop where we go through each goal area, we kind of talk over the weaknesses, and then you as the board members will come up with what you believe are the important issues from that feedback. And then for that, it's kind of like a brainstorming session. It's like a first draft. So we won't be focusing too much on how everything's like worded properly. I do all that refinement afterwards offline, because a lot of wordsmithing can take a while. And I don't want to make you do a 4-day board meeting. But you get that draft copy afterwards, and then at your next board meeting, you have a chance to review and approve and to make edits if you wish.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other board comments? Go ahead, Kristen.
Christy Bell, Assistant Executive Officer. So just for the board members' awareness, if we add the third day to the November board meeting, it would be November 5th. So we'd have a 3-day board meeting then.
Any other comments from the board? All right, what an adventure we're going to go through. Let's see, are there any in-person public comments? Seeing none. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA monitor, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
All right, and I'll switch over to my moderator voice. For any members of the public who are currently online, you can request to make a public comment by raising your hand or clicking the Q&A button down at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. Audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment.
Well, thank you. What an adventure we're going to head for.
Thank you. At this point, I'll go ahead and turn my camera off.
Let's move on to agenda item 12A, update on dental licensure and permit statistics. We are on page 221 through 232 on the printed meeting materials. Going to ask Eddie, Licensing and Exam Unit Manager, to present this item. Go ahead.
Hi, Jody Ortiz.
Jody, sorry.
Yes.
I know, my tongue got, my tongue, lapsus linguis, slip of the tongue.
I'll be presenting agenda item 12A today. This memo provides an overview of application statistics, law and ethics examination statistics, and licensing and permit statistics for the dental licensing and examination divisions. In addition, information was requested at the prior board meeting for pediatric endorsements issued under moderate sedation permit and medical general anesthesia permits to this report. And this data is as of December 31st, 2024. and can be found on pages 228 of your meeting materials. And moving forward for future board meetings, this information will be inserted into the license statistics. Also want to note that moderate sedation permit holders who apply for an under 7 pediatric endorsement is also approved for an under 13 pediatric endorsement. And then beginning on page 230 of your meeting materials, the tables provide statistics on current and active dental licenses by county and on the population per dental licenses from fiscal years 22-23 through fiscal years 24-25. Yuba County has the highest population per dentist, and both Sierra and Alpine counties have the lowest population per dentist. And there is no action requested on this item.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any board member comment on this report? There's no action that's requested at this time. Any comment? Seeing none, is there any in-person public comment? Seeing none, are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx DCA Monitor? Please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator, and members of the public on WebEx, if you would like to make a comment on this item, you can click the raise hand icon or use the Q&A button at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. Audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment.
All right, thank you. All right, we're going to move on to agenda item 12B, report on the Commission on Dental Competency Assessment, Western Regional Examining Board, and the Council of Interstate Testing Agencies, CDCA, REB, and CITA. Do we have someone? Okay, it looks like we have someone, Gary Champagne. Oh, Guy Champagne.
Yes.
Guy, we're ready for you.
Well, good. And I'm happy to be with you again, although virtually. And thank you for allowing me to give you a little update on what's happening with the ADEX examination and CDCA REB-CETA. One of the, I'll keep the report brief. I'm sure you'll be happy with that as well. Last year, there were absolutely no patient-based exams, and ADEX has promulgated a new rule which doesn't recognize or allow patient-based exams, even if a school requests it. Surprisingly, some schools had requested it the year before, but there will be no patient-based exams. If you're interested in how many people take the ADEX exam, of about 7,000 graduates each year, 6,836 of those graduates take the ADEX exam, and the California cohort is 776 candidates. So they're about 1 out of every 10 candidates come from California schools. I don't know if I can, I can share my screen. Good, because I'll show you a slide that might be interested in seeing. Let's see if it'll work. No, because the WebEx won't let me, but I'll forward you that. And it compares the California graduates by each of the 5 clinical performance exams and the pass rates compared to the national cohort. There's not a big mystery there. California does equal to or slightly better than candidates nationally, slightly better, especially in PROS. That's probably the biggest difference. Some of the other issues, we have just completed our occupational analysis, and probably the most interesting change in the occupational analysis is that periodontal scaling, which has not made the criticality cut score for the last 18 years, now easily makes the cut score for dentists. That is a change in what entry-level dentists do. There's lots of theories on why that might have occurred, but as a result That's going to affect the blueprint of the exam and the periodontal scaling component, which is not the periodontal exam. We do that didactically on our computerized OSCE, but that will be a mandatory portion probably starting next year. We're going to realign the blueprint and do the crosswalk analysis over this year. And of course, California, please your representatives will be participating. So make sure you send your representatives to ADEX so they can get involved in that portion. That's really the update that I have. The one final thing that I can share with you is because the three major testing agencies have merged and we're just doing one, and we essentially do 95% of the graduates in the United States, we now know ultimate pass rates. It was something we could never determine in the past because the data wasn't shared. We didn't know attempts across exams, but we now do know. And so it's easier to talk about the percentage of candidates who are unsuccessful, and that composite number is about 0.5 to 1.5% of candidates never are able to pass the exam, at least in a 1-year period as we follow them through all attempts. Longitudinally, we'll know that number year over year as everyone's given a unique identifier that stays with them. But to give you an idea, that comports pretty well with the USMLE Physician's Licensure Examination Series, a similar pass rate. So that makes us happy both on how the exam is performed as well as how well dental schools are performing. So they're doing as well as their cohorts in medicine. And that is my report. So I won't waste any more of your time, but I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your report. Significant shift in the trend in dentistry licensing exams, non-human. And then significant, and thank you for your report on the California lens. We appreciate that also. Is there any other board comment? Seeing none. Let's see, is there any in-person public comment? Jessica? Okay. Is there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA monitor, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator and members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. Audio only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and there are no requests for public comment.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Champlain.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Goodbye.
Okay, we're on to the next item. Agenda item 13A, general anesthesia and sedation permits, inspections and evaluation statistics. We're on page 234 to 244 of the printed meeting materials. We're going to ask Jessica Olney, Anesthesia Unit Manager, to present this item. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Chan, and good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Jessica Olney. I'm the Anesthesia Unit Manager, and I'll be presenting this agenda item. Included in this material is a memo which provides statistical overview of the board-administered on-site inspections and evaluations for general anesthesia, medical general anesthesia, and moderate sedation permits. Also included is an update on the current evaluator pool. This is provided as informational, and I am available to answer any questions that you might have.
Do we have any questions or commentary from the board members? Seeing none, any in-person public comments? Seeing none, are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA monitor, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. Audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you. We're on agenda item 13B, discussion and possible action regarding appointment of general anesthesia, medical general anesthesia, and moderate sedation permit evaluators. We're on page 245 to 265 of the printed materials. Ms. Olney.
Excuse me. Thank you, Dr. Chan. To give a brief background, the board conducts on-site inspections and evaluations of general anesthesia, medical general anesthesia, and moderate sedation permit applicants and permit holders. The evaluation includes the facility, equipment, personnel, and procedures that are used. The evaluation team consists of 2 or more evaluators for the first evaluation, or if an applicant has failed an evaluation. For each subsequent evaluation, only 1 evaluator is required. The evaluators provide an independent evaluation and make recommendations of a passed evaluation, conditional approval, failed simulated emergency, or failed evaluation. Evaluations are subject matter experts approved by the board who must meet specific criteria included in the first 2 pages of this memo. We ask that the board consider the staff's recommendations to appoint the evaluators listed, and I am available to answer any of your questions.
Do we have any board member discussion? Seeing none. As we move on, there's going to be 17 evaluator candidates who are listed on pages 246 to 248 of the meeting materials, and we will need a motion and second for each candidate. Is there a motion and a second? And please state the name, your name, and who was second? Yes. We're on page 246, 247, and
Mr.
248.
President, if you don't mind, as we've done in the past, there's a lot of work and we'd like to get through it, honoring these people and recognizing these people, but without spending a lot of time. And I will be happy to, as chair of the anesthesia committee, to move each of these people for their particular job. Someone else can second it, and then you can go through your discussions, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's do that then. So we're ready to go. The first nomination will be for Dr. Karen Bagdasarian to be approved as an evaluator for moderate sedation permits.
You second.
Any board comments? Any in-person public comment? Any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA monitor, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a comment on this item, you can click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. Audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device.
Motion on each one.
All right. And it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Okay. Madam Secretary, may we have the vote, please?
The motion is to appoint Dr. Karen Bagdasarian as evaluator for moderate sedation permit. Chan.
Aye.
Cheng.
Aye.
Cheng, aye. David.
David, aye.
David, aye. Felsenfeld.
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, aye. Forge.
Forge, aye.
Forge, aye. Larin, aye. Medina.
Medina, aye.
Medina, aye. Olage.
Olagi, aye.
Olage, aye. Thakur.
Aye.
Thakur, aye. You.
You aye.
You, aye. Motion passes.
Thank you. I would move that we approve Dr. Amandeep Bular to conduct evaluations for moderate sedation permits.
David, second.
Is there any board comment? Any in-person comment? Seeing none? Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? A moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right. And it appears there are no requests for public comment.
Thank you. Board Secretary, can you take the vote, please?
Motion to appoint Amandeep Bular as a moderate sedation permit evaluator. Chan?
Chan, aye.
Chan, I. Cheng?
Chang, aye.
I. David?
David, aye.
David, I. Felsenfeld?
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, I. Forge?
Forge, aye.
Forge, I. Larin, I. Medina?
Medina, aye.
Medina, I. Olage?
Olagi, aye.
Olage, I. Thakur?
Thakur, aye.
Thakur, I. You?
You, aye.
You, I. Motion passes.
I move that Dr. Devin Dalla be approved as an evaluator for moderate sedation permits.
Any board comments? Are there any in-person public comments? Seeing none. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and seeing no requests for public comment. Yeah, there's no
right,
requests.
Thank you. Board Secretary, please call the roll and record the votes for this.
Motion to approve Dr. Devin Dalla as a moderate sedation evaluator. Chan?
Chan, aye.
Chan, I. Cheng?
Chang, aye.
Cheng, I. David?
David, abstain.
David abstain. Felsenfeld?
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, I. Forge?
Forge, aye.
Forge, I. Larin, I. Medina?
Medina, aye.
Medina, I. Olage?
Olagi, aye.
Olage, I. Thakur?
Thakur, aye.
Thakur, I. You?
You, aye.
You, I. Motion passes.
I move that Dr. Eric Driver be approved as an evaluator for moderate sedation permits.
Chang, second.
Any board comments? Seeing none. Any in-person public comment? Seeing none. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA monitor, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a comment on this item, you can click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. Board Secretary, please call the
Motion-
roll
Yes,
and
motion to.
record the votes.
Thank you. Motion to appoint Dr. Eric Driver as a moderate sedation permit evaluator. Chan?
Chan, aye.
Chan, I. Cheng?
Chang, aye.
Cheng, I. David?
David, aye.
David, I. Felsenfeld?
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, I. Forge?
Forge, aye.
Forge, I. Larin, I. Medina?
Medina, aye.
Medina, I. Olage?
Olagi, aye.
Olage, I. Thakur?
Thakur, aye.
Thakur, I. You?
You, aye.
You, I. Motion passes.
I move that Dr. Mario Flores be approved as an evaluator for moderate sedation permits.
Are there any board comments? Seeing none. Are there any in-person public comments? Seeing none. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA monitor, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator and members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon. Audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you. Board Secretary, please call the roll and record the votes for this motion.
Motion to appoint Dr. Mario Flores as evaluator for moderate sedation permit. Chan?
Chan, aye.
Chan, I. Cheng?
Chang, aye.
Cheng, I. David?
David, aye.
David, I. Felsenfeld?
Felsenfeld, aye.
Phil, I. Forge?
Forge, aye.
Forge, I. Larin, I. Medina?
Medina, aye.
Medina, I. Olage?
Olagi, aye.
Olage, I. Thakur?
Thakur, aye.
Thakur, I. You?
You, aye.
You, I. Motion passes.
I move that Dr. Hamed Javadi be approved as an evaluator for moderate sedation permits.
Got a second? I'll second. Any board comments? Seeing none?
I have a comment.
Who's speaking?
Sure.
Thakur?
Can you hear me? This is Dr. Thakur.
Yes, identify yourself when you speak. Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, it's interesting. He says it's his type of practice is dental public health. Is that the specialty training that he has? And how does that qualify him as an evaluator for general anesthesia?
Felsenfeld, Dr. Thakur, dental public health is a recognized specialty, and people can go and become board certified in it and be a dental public health dentist by training. It is not impossible that part of that training would include moderate sedation, but he has to have that appropriate credential as well. And I would imagine that staff has vetted him as appropriate for this. And he can be a dental health dentist who does, general dentists can do this. Other dentists can do this as well. So he's one of them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other board comment? Seeing none. Any in-person public comment? Seeing none. Is there any public comments from individuals participating in WebEx? DCA monitor, please. Please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator. For members of the public on WebEx, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment.
All right. Let's move on. Oh,
Motion?
Board Secretary, please
yes,
take the roll and record the vote.
Motion to appoint Dr. Hamed Javadi for evaluator for moderate sedation permit. Chan.
Chan, aye.
Chan, I. Cheng.
Chang, aye.
Cheng, I. David.
David, aye.
David, I. Felsenfeld.
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, I. Forge.
Forge, aye.
Forge, I. Larin, I. Medina.
Medina, aye.
Medina, I. Olage.
Olagi, aye.
Olage, I. Thakur.
Thakur, aye.
Thakur, I. You.
You, aye.
You, I. Motion passes.
I move that I have a little computer glitch, so I'm going to go back and forth if you'll excuse me. Dr. Anthony Lozano be approved as an evaluator for moderate sedation.
You second.
Any other board comment? Any in-person public comment? Seeing none. Any public comment via WebEx? From individuals participating via WebEx, DCA monitor, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator. For members of the public on WebEx, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device.
It's just not coming through.
All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment.
Thank you. Board Secretary,
The
please
mo-
call the roll and record the votes.
Motion to approve the appointment of Dr. Anthony Lizano for evaluator for the moderate sedation permit. Chen.
Chan, aye.
Chen, I. Cheng.
Chang, aye.
Cheng, I. David.
David, aye.
David, I. Felsenfeld.
Felsenfeld, aye.
Phil, I. Forge.
Forge, aye.
Forge, I. Larin, I. Medina.
Medina, aye.
Medina, I. Olage.
Olagi, aye.
Olage, I. Thakur.
Thakur, aye.
Thakur, I. You.
You, aye.
You, I. Motion passes.
Thank you.
I move that Dr. Joseph Miller be approved as an evaluator for moderate sedation.
Can I get a second?
Chang, second.
Chang, second. Any board comment? Seeing none. Any in-person public comment? Seeing none. Any public comment via WebEx? DCA monitor, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator. Members of the public on WebEx, if you would like to make a comment on this item, you can click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you. Board Secretary, please take the roll and record the
Motion-
votes.
Sorry. Motion to approve the appointment of Dr. Joseph Miller as moderate sedation evaluator. Chen.
Chan, aye.
Chen, I. Cheng.
Chang, aye.
Cheng, I. David.
David, aye.
David, I. Felsenfeld.
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, I. Forge.
Forge, aye.
Forge, aye. Larin, aye. Medina.
Medina, I.
Medina, aye. Olage.
Olagi, aye.
Olage, aye. Takur.
Sakurai,
Takur, aye. You.
UI.
You, aye. Motion passes.
I move that Dr. Omen Lego Ovude be approved as an evaluator for moderate sedation.
Got a second? Gonna get a second? Alagi, second. Any board comment? Seeing none. Any in-person public comment? Seeing none. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA monitor, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator and members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a comment on this item, please click that raise hand icon or the Q&A icon. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment.
Thank you. Board Secretary, please take the roll and record the votes.
The motion is to appoint Dr. Omonlego Obude as moderate sedation permit evaluator. Chen.
Chan, aye.
Chen, I. Cheng.
Chang, aye.
Cheng, I. David.
David, aye.
David, I. Felsenfeld.
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, I. Forge.
Forge, aye.
Forge, I. Larin, I. Medina.
Medina, I.
Medina, I. Olage.
Olagi, aye.
Olage, I. Takur.
Sakurai,
Takur, I. You.
UI.
You, I. Motion passes.
I move that Dr. Surisha Penumecha be approved as an evaluator for moderate sedation.
David, second.
Okay.
Are there any other board comments? Seeing none. Any in-person public comment? Seeing none. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx, DCA monitor? Please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator and members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you. Board Secretary, please take the roll and record the votes.
Motion is to appoint Dr. Surisha Penumpache as moderate sedation permit evaluator. Chen.
Chan, aye.
Chen, I. Cheng.
Chang, aye.
Cheng, I. David.
David, aye.
David, I. Felsenfeld.
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, I. Forge.
Forge, aye.
Forge, I. Larin, I. Medina.
Medina, I.
Medina, I. Olage.
Olagi, aye.
Olage, I. Takur.
Sakurai,
Takur, I. You.
UI.
You, I. Motion passes.
Thank you.
I move that we approve the application of Dr. Arti Puri to be an evaluator for moderate sedation permits.
You second.
Any board comments? Seeing none. Any in-person public comment? Seeing none. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA monitor, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
As a moderator and members of the public on WebEx, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment.
Thank you. Board Secretary, please take the roll and then record the votes.
Motion to appoint Dr. Arti Puri as moderate sedation permit evaluator. Chen.
Chan, aye.
Chen, I. Cheng.
Chang, aye.
Cheng, I. David.
David, aye.
David, I. Felsenfeld.
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, I. Forge.
Forge, aye.
Forge, I. Larin. Larin, I. Medina.
Medina, I.
Medina, I. Olage.
Olagi, aye.
Olage, I. Takur. Dr. Takur.
Sakurai,
Takur, I. You.
UI.
You, I. Motion passes.
I move that Dr. Jose Sanchez be approved as an evaluator for moderate sedation.
Medina, second.
Are there any other board comments? Seeing none. Are there any in-person public comments? Seeing none. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA monitor, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
As a moderator for members of the public on WebEx, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment.
Thank you. Board Secretary, please take the roll and record the votes.
The motion is to approve Dr. Jose Sanchez as a moderate sedation permit evaluator. Chan.
Chan, aye.
Chan, I. Cheng.
Chang, I.
Cheng, I. David.
David, I.
David, I. Felsenfeld.
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, I. Forge.
Forge, aye.
Forge, I. Larin, I. Medina.
Medina, I.
Medina, I. Olage.
Olagi, aye.
Olage, I. Takur.
Thakur, aye.
Takur, I. You.
You, aye.
You, I. Motion passes.
I move that Dr. Krikor Simonian be approved as an evaluator for moderate sedation permits.
Chang, second.
Any board comments? Seeing none. Any in-person comments? Seeing none. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA monitor, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
As a moderator for members of the public on WebEx, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click that raise hand icon or the Q&A icon. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment.
Thank you. Board Secretary, please call the roll and record the votes.
Motion to appoint Dr. Krikor Simonian as moderate sedation permit evaluator. Chan.
Chan, aye.
Chan, I. Cheng.
Chang, I.
Cheng, I. David.
David, I.
David, I. Felsenfeld.
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, I. Forge.
Forge, aye.
Forge, I. Larin, I. Medina.
Medina, I.
Medina, I. Olage.
Olagi, aye.
Olage, I. Takur.
Thakur, aye.
Takur, I. You.
You, aye.
You, I. Motion passes.
I move that Dr. Harjinder Singh be approved as an evaluator for moderate sedation permits.
Medina, second.
Are there any other board comments? No. Seeing none. Are there any in-person public comments? Seeing none. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA monitor, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
As a moderator for members of the public on WebEx, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment.
Thank you. Board Secretary, please call the roll and record the votes.
Motion to appoint Dr. Harjinder Singh as a moderate sedation permit evaluator. Chan.
Chan, aye.
Chan, I. Cheng.
Chang, I.
Cheng, I. David.
David, I.
David, I. Felsenfeld.
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, I. Forge.
Forge, aye.
Forge, I. Larin, I. Medina.
Medina, I.
Medina, I. Olage.
Olagi, aye.
Olage, I. Takur.
Thakur, aye.
Takur, I. You.
You, aye.
You, I. Motion passes.
I move that Dr. James Sandring be approved as an evaluator for moderate sedation permits.
Olagi, second.
Any board comments? Seeing none. Any in-person public comment? Seeing none. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
As a moderator and for members of the public on WebEx, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and seeing no requests for public comment, I shall close that Q&A panel.
Thank you. Board Secretary, please call the roll and record the votes for this motion.
Motion to appoint Dr. James Sandring as moderate sedation evaluator for permits. Chan.
Chan, aye.
Chan, I. Cheng.
Chang, I.
Cheng, I. David.
David, I.
David, I. Felsenfeld.
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, I. Forge.
Forge, aye.
Forge, I. Larin, I. Medina.
Medina, I.
Medina, I. Olage. Olage, I. Takur.
Thakur, aye.
Takur, I. You.
You, aye.
You, I. Motion passes.
I move that Dr. Yusuke Suzuki be approved as an evaluator for moderate sedation permits.
Chang,
Second.
Any board comments? Seeing none. Any in-person public comment? Seeing none, is there any comments, public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA monitor, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand icon. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you. Board Secretary, please call the roll and take the votes.
Motion to approve Dr. Yuzuki Suzuki as moderate sedation permit evaluator. Chan?
Chan, aye.
Chan, I. Chang?
Chang, aye.
Chang, I. David?
David, aye.
David, I. Felsenfeld?
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, I. Forge?
Forge, aye.
Forge, I. Larina, I. Medina?
Dina, I.
Medina, I. Olage?
Olagi, aye.
Olage, I. Thakur?
Sakurai.
Thakur, I. You?
Aye.
You, I. Motion passes.
I move that Dr. Ann Y. be approved as an evaluator for moderate sedation permits.
Chang, second.
Any board comments? Seeing none, any in-person public comments? Seeing none, are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a comment on this item, you can click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Board Secretary, please call the roll and record the votes for this motion.
Motion to appoint Dr. Ann Y. as moderate sedation permit evaluator. Chan?
Chan, aye.
Chan, I. Chang?
Chang, aye.
Chang, I. David?
David, aye.
David, I. Felsenfeld?
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, I. Forge?
Forge, aye.
Forge, I. Larin, I. Medina?
Medina, I.
Medina, I. Olage?
Olagi, aye.
Olage, I. Thakur?
Sakurai.
Thakur, I. You?
You, aye.
You, I. Motion passes. Woo!
Thank you. I would like to, once again, this is a long, hard job, and thank you to all of us for doing all this. But most important, I want to thank and congratulate all of the newly appointed anesthesia evaluators.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And this is, we do thank each of these evaluators for stepping forward and protecting the public. So thank you all. Let's move on now to agenda item 14A, presentation of Attorney General's annual report on accusations prosecuted for Department of Consumer Affairs Client Agencies Business and Professions Code Section 312.2, January 1st, 2025. We are on page 266 to 319 of the printed materials. I'm going to ask Mr. Carl Sone.
Sani.
Sane, sorry. The Senior Assistant Attorney General from the Office of Attorney General, Department of Justice. Thank you, Mr. Sane.
Thank you, members of the board, members of the dental board staff, and the public who are watching. It's a pleasure to be before you this afternoon to talk about the Attorney General's work for the Dental Board of California. For those of you who have your materials handy, the report starts on page 266 or so of your materials, and the page which I will spend most time on is located on page 291 of your materials, or page 22 of the report. So let me introduce myself. My name is Carl Sani. I am, as indicated, the Senior Assistant Attorney General with the Office of the Attorney General, in charge of the licensing section. I oversee a group of over 100 attorneys and legal staff who work to prosecute actions on behalf of the Department of Consumer Affairs licensing agencies, as well as other agencies. Of the 36 DCA agencies that are reported in this report, we represent, I believe, 25 of them. Let's flip the slide here. One more. Perfect. So this afternoon, I'm going to break up my presentation into 4 parts. First, I will talk about the background of the report that I will be discussing. Then the data collection process, which our office engages in to get to the numbers that are reported. Then I'm going to cover the report as it describes the results of all DCA agencies. And then finally, I will focus on the report specific to the dental board numbers this past fiscal year. Slide, please. So the origin of this report goes way back to 2015 when SB 467 was passed in order for the legislature to see the work of the Attorney General in the prosecution of its accusations on behalf of the dental board. That law became effective in 2016, and it's found in Business and Professions Code 3112. And just for a little bit of extra background, Business and Professions Code Section 312 governs the report that the Department of Consumer Affairs prepares annually for the legislature, covering much of the same data, but from the perspective of the Department of Consumer Affairs. And then Section 312.1 presents similar data from the perspective of the Office of Administrative Hearings. All three organizations, that is the client licensing agencies, the Office of Administrative Hearings, and the Office of Attorney General, work together to tighten up the timeframes it takes for accusation matters to go from the time of the filing of a complaint by a consumer to the final resolution of the consumer's complaint. And so you have to almost look at all the data together, but today I'll only be speaking as to the role of the Attorney General. The first report that we prepared came out on January 1st, 2018, and covered the prior fiscal year. And the current report is the 8th one, and it covers the fiscal year from 2023 to 2024. And as indicated, we focus on just the 25 agencies of our client base, while the Health Quality Enforcement section, which represents, among other things, the medical board, represents 11 licensing agencies. Slide, please. So how do we go about getting all the data that's reported here? We use a customized version of a major digital file keeping system called ProLaw, and it's our case management system. In licensing and HQE together, there are about 200 ProLaw users, and we are training, and we train all of the staff about how to measure and input into this database the various markers, or we call them milestones, that show the progress of a case from beginning to the end of our office's involvement. Twice a year, the paralegals in the licensing section will audit that data and validate it to make sure that there are no data errors, that every event that happens, such as the filing of a pleading, is recorded accurately and documented in our electronic system. So we feel pretty confident that the data we'll be talking about today is accurate. Slide, please. So looking at all agencies within the Department of Consumer Affairs together, you can see 5 of the key measurements that we'll be looking at. For purposes of our presentation, I've taken the data not only from this year, but the prior fiscal year, just so you can see if there's a rough similarity between the two. So a little more than half of the work that we get from the Department of Consumer Affairs is for the filing of accusations. Accusations, as I'm sure you know as members of the board, are charges of unprofessional conduct that violate the laws applicable to each licensing agency. We do other work as well, citations. We do petitions to revoke probation, petitions for reinstatement, and a lot of other type of work, including litigation in the superior courts. But this report is only as to the accusation proceedings. We have seen a continuing increase in the number of referrals. So this year, we had 2,666 referrals from our client agencies, which is a 5% increase. And that is an increase that could be attributed to COVID. When COVID came down, it impacted pretty much all of our clients in making it a little more challenging for matters to get processed. We now feel like we're out of that area, that time frame now, and the referrals are kind of going up to where we would expect and hope them to be. So we're very pleased with the amount of referrals that we're seeing from the Department of Consumer Affairs. The next statistic on rejected. So what does rejected refers to? Rejected means a case gets referred to us, and for one of many reasons, it gets rejected so that we will not prosecute that case. That can happen for a variety of reasons. One reason that is often seen is the death of a respondent. Another is that in the course of looking at the file, we find that there's a legal or an evidentiary impediment in proceeding further. Sometimes when we see an evidentiary gap that we need to correct, we will ask clients to send us further investigative material. And that happens, as you can see from the statistics, about 10% of the time. And that usually is effective in correcting a gap. It could be a missing witness statement, maybe a victim or consumer whose interview needs to be updated. Any one of a number of things can require further investigation. The final issue is adjudicated matters. What does adjudicated matters means? Well, the definition of all these terms are at the first 10 pages or so of the report. And basically, adjudicated as used in this report means that the work of the Office of Attorney General is complete. We have done our part in the prosecution of this case. That could be by submitting a stipulated settlement to the client agencies, the dental board in this case. It could be from taking the matter to hearing and having the matter submitted to an administrative law judge, because from there, the Office of Administrative Hearings is responsible for quickly processing the case and preparing a proposed decision. So this will be the data I'll be talking about. Next slide. So this now is as to the dental board metrics. So how many accusations were referred to our office this past year? We saw 95, a pretty dramatic increase from the previous year. And I think the one thing I can say with confidence is that the enforcement arm of the dental board is certainly robust and very active, which pleases us. We only saw 2 matters rejected, and as a percentage of the referrals, as you can see, that's a very small percentage, better than maybe the agencies as a whole. Next slide. So further investigations, we saw from the prior fiscal year to the fiscal year that we're reporting on, 23-24, 15 of the, I believe it is 95 cases. And that's an increase, but itself is not what from my perspective, is not material or much suggestive of anything. In the same way that we're getting further investigation received, an increase, and that in looking at all of these metrics, you have to bear in mind that the various data crosses over from one fiscal year to another. So you can't really make a determination on one data point without looking at the history. And the evidence here is, we think is pleasing, it's satisfactory, it's not remarkable. Next slide, please. And again, this one shows an increase of the filing of accusations from 48 to 95, which again shows that robust enforcement action that the dental board is taking. Next slide, please. In this matter, we see accusations withdrawn, and what does that kind of show? And accusations adjudicated. Accusations withdrawn means that we filed a case on behalf of the dental board in this data set. But it means that later we concluded that the accusation should be withdrawn and the client agency agreed with us. What are some of the common reasons why an accusation can be withdrawn? Again, it can be withdrawn due to the death of a licensee. It can also be a function of the fact that more evidence comes to light during the course of the exchange of discovery materials between the parties. And it may show something significant, that maybe there is some very significant mitigating information that makes us and the client agency conclude that the interests of justice indicate that the accusation should be withdrawn. So I never view accusations withdrawn in a negative light. It means that the system is working from my perspective. The matters adjudicated decreased this year, but given the increase in the number of referrals, I'm not particularly, that seems, from my perspective, good. Next slide. Now, this is one of these data points that we measure in interval. So we measure various intervals, but in this case, we look at the time from the time of the accusation referral is received to the time when it's filed. So that means we get the case, a package of documents from the client agency, and we examine it and we determine whether or not grounds for filing an accusation exist. And if so, we then prepare a charging document, and that charging document then is submitted to the client for prosecution, and it's filed when it is signed. And that time period shows 76 days. That one of my goals is to get those dates below 90 days, which has historically not always been easy. For the dental board here, it's 76 days, so that's pleasing. Accusations filed after further investigation. What this suggests is that after we receive further investigation, we have been able to act promptly in evaluating that additional material and then filing. And so we've seen that period between the further investigation and the filing date has basically been halved in this time frame, which again is a positive development. Next slide. So here we look at the accusation filed to settlement. Remember that a case can be adjudicated a lot of different ways. One way is through settlement. And if it is settled, we look at how long did it take for the case to be settled after it was filed. In 22-23, that was 380 days. By the way, from my personal goal, I'm not speaking beyond my own hope and expectations, is that we get that time frame below all of our adjudications to less than 360 days. And this case, it was 380 days for a settlement. This past year, we got it down to 289, which among other things is obviously a good number, but I attribute a lot of that also to the staff of the dental board that works with us effectively to determining an appropriate settlement to propose to the board for its consideration. The number below it is the number of days between an accusation filing to the default of a licensee. In 22-23, it was 165 days. This year, with roughly the same volume, 14 and 15 cases, it got down to 97 days. Again, that shows effective work on both your staff's part as well as our office working hard to get defaults processed. Next slide, please. This is one that I like to look at, again, just to see how we're doing vis-a-vis one fiscal year to another. And this shows the time from an accusation being filed to a hearing being requested. So this means that we have received the accusation, it's been filed, And we, in the interval, have received a notice of defense. And usually after the notice of defense, the next task we look at, if we can't settle the case promptly, and there will be settlement discussions after the notice of defense is filed, we then request a hearing before the Office of Administrative Hearings. And then the other interval that we measure is the hearing date received from the Office of Administrative Hearing to the time when the hearing is commenced. So the accusation filed to hearing requested, you saw again a decrease of 150 days to 134 days, which again is an improvement. From the hearing date received to hearing date commenced, we again saw, frankly, a dramatic improvement from 228 days to 129 days. And if you add up those numbers, and I'll caution you a little bit about adding numbers up, it went from 378 days to 263 days. What I would just caution you to understand is that there's a whole body of cases that are going into this whole population. And these numbers are really favorable and they look favorable, but never assume that it's the same case that is being measured in accusations filed to hearing requested. That same case may not be in the population of cases that show the hearing date received to hearing commenced. But it is suggestive that we have made a dramatic improvement, again, with the staff of the dental board in shortening the time from the time when an accusation is filed to the time when the hearing actually commences. Next slide. This is the last slide of my presentation. And again, it's a cautionary note because one, we had measured these various data points, these intervals, and we are always looking for ways to improve them. It's a complicated process because there are 3 agencies involved, the client agencies, our office, as well as the Office of Administrative Hearings. And so we all work together to improve these periods, and they are, in fact, we have seen improvement here this past fiscal year. But cases sometimes are different. And I would caution you that even though the dental board's cases look really good, and they are, you always have to be cautious comparing one agency against another. So the report that you have reports on all 36 agencies, but you should not assume that the data for one agency can be really compared to the data of another agency. The complexity of a given agency's work can make the results slow down just because of the need for expert assistance, for example. The time to investigate, if further investigation can be complicated when there are consumers and perhaps privacy documents that need to be sought in order to prosecute a case. In addition to which, not to make too light of my own position as an attorney, but attorneys tend to, and I say this for opposing counsel, attorneys' involvement tends to slow the case down. Is that a bad thing? In California, it is not necessarily a bad thing. The presence of opposing counsel ensures that our licensees are getting representation, they're getting due process, and that's the role of an attorney. But as you might imagine, when attorneys get involved, they can be protective of everyone's rights, appropriately so, and that can, in fact, sometimes slow the process down. We strive to adjudicate cases as quickly as possible, but we do need to ensure that due process is complied with. And that's a function that both the client agency staff and us works to evaluate the merits of every given case and to only bring to hearing or to an adjudication those cases which are appropriate to be adjudicated. That concludes my report. Again, I want to thank the staff of the dental board for really the terrific work they do. The work of licensees in the dental board arena is complex. And that means that the investigations can be complex and can involve experts and sometimes multiple experts. So I just want to compliment your work as well as the work of the staff in actually getting numbers that look so pleasing from my perspective resolved this past year. That concludes my presentation, unless there are any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sani. And please extend our thanks to your colleagues. Each one of those statistics took time to get there. And we appreciate the time and expertise to get us there. There are a lot of steps to get us there. And then extend our thanks also to your colleagues for the learning curve they have to go on to see what our universe in healthcare looks like or should look like. So thank them. Are there any other board comments? Go ahead.
Robert David, board member. What can the board do to help drive continuous improvement in the measures that you just went over with us?
I will say something that's generic to, I think, all client agencies within the Department of Consumer Affairs. Staffing is always an issue that I know our clients are seeking, which is to have the adequate number of personnel to evaluate cases, investigate cases. That's not unique to the dental board. That's true for all agencies. To get the very best can sometimes be a lot of effort. When we do hire, when we interact with our client agencies personnel, they are really high quality people. But sometimes, if there's a retirement, it can take time to fill those positions. So I saw all the evaluators you approved today. It's that type of work to make sure that staffing is complete as best as you can do, and that really helps our work. It's just to see that the client has all the resources it needs to send their cases to our office for evaluation.
Any other board comments? Go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Sani, Tara Welch, Board Counsel. I don't think your staff gets recognized enough. The board's DAG liaison, Daniel McGee, is outstanding. His institutional knowledge of the Office of the Attorney General and dental board procedures is extremely helpful, especially when the board goes through executive officer transitions. His willingness to assist the client is also outstanding. There have been recent instances where he's had to pivot very quickly and represent the board on an expeditious manner. And I just, as board counsel, really appreciate his abilities and the assistance he provides to this board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other board comments? Any in-person public comment? Seeing none. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator. For members of the public on WebEx, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Sani, again. We're going to
Thank
move
you for your
on.
time this afternoon.
Thank you. We're going to move to agenda item 14B, enforcement, review of statistics and trends. We're on page 320 to 327 of the printed materials. We're going to ask Chief Ryan Blonian, Enforcement Chief, to present.
21-year-old rookie police.
You may be armed. Don't mess
Thank
with
you. Our statistics are contained in the report. We continue to trudge forward with a variety and a cornucopia of cases that cover many different topics and areas of dentistry. We are currently in the process of hiring 2 sworn peace officers and I believe 2 special investigators. So I hope that by our next board meeting, we have some of that filled.
Okay. Any other board discussion on the statistics? Seeing none, any in-person public comments? Seeing none, are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator. Moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a comment, please click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon, and audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Okay, let's move on to agenda item 15A, diversion program report and statistics. We're on page 328 of the printed materials. I'm going to ask Ms. Bell to present this agenda item.
Thank you. Christy Bell, Assistant Executive Officer. I am presenting the diversion program report and statistics. There is a table on page 328 for your informational purposes only. I did want to note that there is a correction to this table from the November 2024 Dental Board meeting memorandum. The number of participants was incorrect, and this has been corrected in the table below. Additionally, as an update, as of January 1st, 2025, the board has a new program administrator, and that is Premier Health Group.
All right, are there any board member discussions? Seeing none, is there any in-person public comment? Seeing none, are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment.
Okay, thank you. We are now, oh my goodness, already on agenda item 16. And it is, let's see, Executive Officer Recruitment and Selection Process. We're on pages 329, 338.
Wilbur or Olivia Trejo?
Okay. Let's take a 15-minute break. What
You
time
never
is
like
it?
to do that. It's
Oh.
just 2:43 and 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. Call this back. Oh, my
Good thing they
goodness.
missed that.
Uh-huh.
Brutality here.
Where the heck am I?
You're in the
16A, Executive Officer Recruitment and Selection Process. We're on pages 329 to 338. We're going to ask Catherine Batchelor, online Appointments and Recruitment Specialist, Office of Human Resources, to present this agenda item. Ms. Batchelor.
Good afternoon. Greetings, President Chan and board members. My name is Catherine Batchelor, and I am the Appointments and Recruitment Specialist for the Department of Consumer Affairs, Office of Human Resources. I want to thank you and the board for the opportunity to be here today and to provide an overview of the Executive Officer Recruitment and Selection process, and to review the duty statement and recruitment announcement to obtain any recommended changes you may have. Last week, I had emailed you a copy of the duty statement and recruitment announcement with instructions. I understand these were also provided to you in your meeting agenda material. I will begin with the Executive Officer Recruitment and Selection process at this time. Please feel free to let me know if you have any questions along the way. Today, the board will appoint a 2-member search committee, also known as the Selection Committee. The search committee shall be able to dedicate time and effort to assist the board with preliminary hiring and recruitment efforts in the selection of a new executive officer. The search committee members are chosen by the board. Today, the board will also have the opportunity to review and finalize the executive officer duty statement and recruitment announcement, which will be used for the executive officer advertisement. The executive officer advertisement is typically advertised for 30 days and is published on the California Department of Human Resources, also known as CalHR, careers platform, and in the Capital Morning Report. If you choose to advertise outside these platforms, I will work with the search committee and provide a link to the CalHR posting that can be distributed. During the advertisement period, I or a designee will work directly with the search committee to determine preliminary interview questions and interview dates. I or a designee will serve as the contact on the advertisement and will provide the search committee the applications received each Friday on a flow basis until the final filing date. The search committee will review and screen applications received based on the desirable qualifications and determine which candidates qualify for preliminary and/or final interviews. Preliminary interviews are recommended if a large candidate pool is received. These would be conducted by the search committee. Reference checks will be conducted on the top candidates prior to final interviews in front of the entire board. At a next scheduled board meeting in closed session, final interviews will be conducted for the top candidates that are recommended by the search committee. The selection of the next executive officer will require a vote by board members. The name of the selected candidate must be kept confidential until all non-selected candidates have been notified of the decision. The selected candidate will also be subject to criminal offender record information, also known as CORI clearance, which will be facilitated by the Office of Human Resources. CORI clearance is obtained through fingerprint submission to the Department of Justice in response to a request for criminal conviction review. Once the selected candidate has passed CORI, the board will work with the department's communication division to make the formal announcement. On the effective date of the appointment, the oath of office must be administered, which may be administered by the board president or board member in person. Guidance on the oath administration will be provided accordingly by the Office of Human Resources. That concludes the executive officer recruitment and selection process overview. At this time, I would like to afford the board the opportunity to ask any questions you may have regarding the process.
Are there any board questions or discussions on the process? Seeing none. Are there any in-person public comments on the process? Seeing none. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a comment on this item, please click that raise hand icon or the Q&A icon. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment.
Thank you. Let's go on to agenda item 16B, discussion and possible action on process for recruitment and selection of an executive officer. We're on page 329 of the meeting materials. Ms. Batchelor.
Okay. Next, I'd like to review and discuss the duty statement and recruitment announcement that are part of the agenda. Executive Officer Tracy Montez has reviewed both documents and her edits have been incorporated. The Office of Human Resources has also reviewed the documents to bring standard language current. First, I'd like to bring your attention to the duty statement. I hope you all had the opportunity to review it and now ask if you have any updates you would like to make to the duty statement.
Okay. Are there any, let's see. We have let's ask for board member discussion first. Are there any questions on that? Okay, go ahead, Bob.
Robert David, I'm assuming, never having gone through this before, on a licensing board, that this is similar to how other health licensing boards do recruitments for EOs. Is this, I mean, specifically the medical board? I was just kind of, I think I had reached out to you and asked for to see how the medical board did it. I was just kind of curious for my own edification.
The process is essentially the same for the
Okay.
recruitment process.
Okay. And okay, so the application process and the is essentially the same because it's an exempt position. It's an appointed position, correct?
Correct.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other board discussion? Let's do a motion on this one. I'll move it. Let's move to delegate to the DCA Office of Human Resources the authority to advertise the position of executive officer and coordinate and set interviews of candidates for the position. And Felsenfeld second. Any other board discussion or on the motion itself? Seeing none, is there any in-person public comment? Seeing none, are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator, and for members of the public on WebEx, if you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment.
All right, thank you. Board Secretary, please call the roll and record the votes for this motion. Do you want me to repeat the motion?
I'll repeat it. Motion to delegate to the DCA Office of Human Resources the authority to advertise the position of executive officer and coordinate and set interviews of candidates for the position. Chan.
Chan, aye.
Chan, I. Chang.
Chang, aye.
Chang, I. David.
David, aye.
David, I. Felsenfeld.
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, I. Forge.
Forge, aye.
Forge, I. Larin, I. Medina.
Medina, aye.
Medina, I. Olage.
Olagi, aye.
Olage, I. Thakur.
Thakur, aye.
Thakur, I. You.
You, aye.
You, I. Motion passes.
Thank you. Let's move on to agenda item 16C, review and possible action on revised executive officer duty statement and the recruitment announcement. They're on pages 330 and 338. And Ms. Batchelor, let's go ahead.
Okay. Yes. So the recruitment announcement and the duty statement have both been already reviewed by Tracy Montez as well as the Office of Human Resources. I hope you had time to review the duty statement. Do you have any changes at this time?
Any questions from the board? Okay, can we get a motion?
Felsenfeld, I move that we adopt the executive officer duty statement as shown in the meeting packet.
That was Medina. All right.
I want to do this too. So that's the same thing. We're not making.
Any other board comment? Seeing none. Any public comment in person? Seeing none. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator, and for members of the public on WebEx, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment.
Thank you, Board Secretary. Let's repeat the motion and then call the roll.
Yes, the
And then
motion
votes.
then is to adopt executive officer duty statement as shown in the meeting packet. Chan.
Chan, aye.
Chan, I. Chang.
Chang, aye.
Chang, I. David.
David, aye.
David, I. Felsenfeld.
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, I. Forge.
Forge, aye.
Forge, I. Larin, I. Medina.
Medina, aye.
Medina, I. Olage.
Olagi, aye.
Olage, I. Thakur.
Thakur, aye.
Thakur, I. You.
You, aye.
You, I. Motion passes.
We already did the announcement, right? We're on C? No, we're past that.
Recruitment announcement.
Yes,
Okay.
please, go ahead.
Okay, next we will review the recruitment announcement. Please refer to the desirable qualifications section, and I ask you at this time if you have any changes or additions or deletions to this section.
Okay, any board discussion on this? It's on the printed materials. Can I get a motion? I'll move it. I'm going to move to approve the recruitment announcement as shown in the meeting packet.
You second.
Any board discussion? Any in-person public discussion or comments? Seeing none, any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx, DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for
yeah,
public
okay.
comment.
This is the moderator, and for members of the public on WebEx, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon. In audio-only participants, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment.
Okay, thank you. Board Secretary? would
Yes, the
you-
motion is to approve recruitment announcement as shown in meeting packet. Chen.
Chan, aye.
And I, Cheng.
Chang, aye.
Cheng, I, David.
David, aye.
David, I, Felsenfeld.
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, I, Forge.
Forge, aye.
Forge, I, Larin, I, Medina.
Medina, I.
Medina, I, Olage.
Olagi, aye.
Olage, I, Takur.
Takur, aye.
Takur, I, you.
You aye.
You, I, motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
Make- yes, but we have to-
Okay, we're on agenda item 16D, discussion and possible action on appointment of an executive officer selection committee. And is there any member discussion on this? I'm going to take the note from the board administrative manual and recommend that I populate that committee and Dr. Felsenfeld populate the committee. Any board comments on that? Okay. Do I do the motion first?
It's an appointment. I don't think it has to be approved.
Okay.
Is it?
Is there any in-person public comments?
Okay.
Seeing none, is there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
Just there.
Oh,
It's an
This is-
appointment of the committee.
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon or the Q&A icon. In audio-only participants, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device.
It's just a point.
All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. We are done with 16D. Wow. Hopefully the process will go as fast.
Let's hope.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your comments. And
You're
we will
welcome.
keep in touch and you'll keep in touch with us.
Yes, I'll make
Thank-
sure to send an email to the search committee so that way you have my information.
You will be with me.
Thank you.
with us.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to agenda item 17 and we're going to conclude the open session and go to recess until tomorrow morning at 8:30, February 7th. Thank you. Thank you for being patient with me.